Everyone ready? Great. Good evening, everybody. It is June 20th. Nope, it's September 20th. It's 6:30, and this is the select board meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order.
So moved. Second.
We get an acceptance of the agenda. Moved, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is unanimous. Before we start the meeting, I'd like to read a statement. Select board is committed to providing an environment of respect during meetings. We ask all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there is disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. We ask our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards to support and respect our community. That being said, I will open up to any walk-ins. Do we have any walk-ins this evening? No one standing. We'll move right along to the report of the town administrator.
Good evening.
Hey, Jim?
Seems like I just saw everybody last
I
week.
know, same bad time, same bad time.
So as we discussed at our last meeting 2 weeks ago, we'll no longer be doing COVID updates. People who look for COVID information, go to mass.gov, click COVID-19 for updates. You scroll down, there's an icon that says interactive data dashboard. That'll bring you to the page that we get most of our information from when we report. After comments and discussions at the DEI committee, we've added a new feature to our website. Residents and visitors to our website for whom English may not be their first language can now scroll to the bottom of the website and they'll see a box with a drop-down menu labeled Translate. If you click on the menu, it will allow you to pick from 108 different languages to translate the website into, making it easier for people to get information and stay informed of what is happening in the community. I want to thank the DEI committee and HR Director Bob Clark for bringing this to our attention, Michelle Lorraine and Mike Mincello from the IT department for making this happen. So I went on it. It's pretty amazing. I don't understand any of the other languages because I'm just not good at that, but thanks for them making that happen. So now again, people who don't have English as their first language can get information much more simply from going to our website. Water update, reservoirs at -50, last week we were -46. Tack Factory Ponds -15.75, last week we were -14.5. Average daily demand was up slightly to 1.25 million gallons a day, up from 1.212 million gallons a day. The Commonwealth has changed our drought from critical to significant, but we are still having trouble with our wells. We had a check valve fail on well 22, that well is now offline, which is putting more stress on our water treatment plant. As we talked about last night with the water treatment plant, that is the solution to the groundwater to build that. We will look for temporary fixes for next year. The good news is the cooler nights are helping the manganese come out, not go through the water treatment plant. So we are looking and hoping that we're getting better water quality out of the plant at this point. People should still let us know if they have brown water so we can track down what's going on in their particular areas. Rainfall the last 7 days was 0.25. Selco is in the Ridge Hill area this week. No paving scheduled for this week. The contractor will be building and paving sections of Glades Road and Bailey's Causeway. Sometime next week, we'll let people know. It'll be dependent upon the weather. The rain this week will probably push those back. The Minot Beach Stair contract is ongoing. Construction is supposed to take about 4 weeks. This week's kind of a bad tide week for them, but they are down there working. Glades Road, will still be a one-way from Gannett to Bailey's Causeway when that work is going on as they have their construction trucks parked on the road. So please be aware of that. It does not impact the school buses at this point as they go that way. The movie filming down at Sand Hills is scheduled to wrap up tomorrow. There will be a couple days of cleanup after that. But tomorrow's the last day of filming. If people want to go take a look, again, it's pretty boring. They're at Egypt Beach and they are at Central Park, but they'll be out there starting this week. We received the consultant's report on the Lighthouse Lantern Room. It is in bad shape as we believed it to be. Determination has been made that the lantern room needs to come off as soon as possible. We are working on securing a contract and coming up with a plan for that. We expect that it'll come off right now sometime next week. As soon as we have all the details, we will send them out. And the actual lantern room will be placed in the yard of the caretaker's cottage there, out of the storm and wrapped up, but that's what it'll be. And then once it's down, the determination will be made whether or not that's gonna be fixed, and we're gonna actually have to put a new lamp and put that back out. But we should have some news in that beginning next week, and as I said, we'll let people know. We don't wanna just go out to the lighthouse and say what happened to the top, so that'll be hopefully sometime next week. As Mr. Benatti announced last week, the town has been awarded 2 significant grants from the Commonwealth. One is the Department of Homeland Security Port Grant. This is for $437,251 for the purchase of the police boat. The town appropriated its share of that last night. It's probably at least a 2-year bill, but we will be getting that new boat as quickly as possible. And then the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Seawall and Dam Removal Fund Construction Grant. The town received $5,932,500 to fund 2 of the 4 phases of the Oceanside Area Seawall Replacement Project. Excuse me, that is out of a total of 18 million that the state gave out, so we got almost a third of the total dam and seawall grants that went out. We've authorized $4 million for that at town meeting, so congratulations to the police department and to Kevin Caffrey and his department for tracking down those 2 very significant grants. And finally, as we'll keep saying, until the snow falls, we are looking for plow drivers. Please contact the DPW if you are interested. That's what I have for this evening.
Thank you, Jim. I have 2 quick announcements and then I'll open the board. Some bittersweet news. Deb Cummins, who works in the select board office, will be leaving us for another opportunity. She's been a great assistance there. I know Lorraine, Michelle, and the rest of the board are sad to see her go. We'd like to thank her for her excellent work over the past 1.5 years. And we've already hired a replacement, Jen Gagan, who's a longtime resident in town, is going to succeed Deb, and she'll be working in the position, and she is starting on October, October 3rd. So, thank you, Deb, for all your work, and welcome, Jen. The other thing I'd just like to mention is I want to thank everybody for showing up at town meeting last night, special town meeting. It was a very good turnout. I think probably more than most special town meetings bring. We had some big topics to discuss. I thought there was good debate on all sides. And I think that it went relatively quickly and was very effective. And I just want to thank everybody for going. Thank you all for presenting. Thank the advisory board for their booklet and their presentations, and all the other boards, capital planning, zoning, and CPC. So that being said, I'll open up to the board. Any questions for Jim or comments? Karen?
Just 2 quick questions, Mr. Vidro. The status of your review of the open director of planning, where does that stand?
We next week with the departments, we're looking at some changes to the job description. As soon as we get that, we'll be bringing it into the board, hopefully moving forward, so.
And the other question was, I know I've got an intern this summer on trying to figure out an RFI for the evening. Is that still in the works?
I have his work product, it's pretty good, it was underneath my special town meeting pile,
That's
we'll go
what I
there.
waited for today.
We'll get on that, but he did a really nice job on that, and we should be able to move that forward in the not too distant future.
Thank you. I waited till that.
Good.
Laura, any questions?
No, I just want to echo your gratitude and thank Jim and Nancy and all the town staff as well for attending and preparing for last night. Successful meeting, so we can say thank you last night before you left, thank you.
Thank you. I missed that, and thanks for catching that. Awesome. All right. Any questions from the audience for Jim on the report? No? All right, we'll move right along. Our first topic this evening is a discussion and vote on a donation for the Scituate Police for a canine vest for $200. Anyone here for that, or Jim, you're gonna handle that?
I mean, I can do that, it was an anonymous donation of $200 for a ballistic vest for our police dog. If you remember the tragic incident on the Cape, so the dog does need a ballistic vest, and the police department asked us to accept this donation so they can purchase the vest for the dog.
Any questions? If not, can I have a motion?
Move to accept the generous donation anonymously for the Scituate Police Department for a canine rec vest. Is that the name of the dog? Rec.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Clear about that. And the donation is $200.
And we'll go to the Scituate Canine Fund.
The Scituate Canine Fund. If you didn't know, folks, we have a canine fund. You can donate to.
Second by Ms. Curran, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous. Thank you for that great donation. Second topic this evening is the discussion vote for the Scituate Library. Ms. Finney's here, and I know there's other people from the trustees, if y'all want to come up and tell us what you have proposed.
Actually, I think we have a quorum of the trustees, so we might need to have somebody to lead so we're not violating open meeting laws. Thank you for having us on the agenda. I do want to acknowledge that we have Pat Murphy, Sheila Custis, and Carol Sullivan Harry from the board, and Jenny Ayers from the foundation, so I'm particularly interested in the second item. I have to say, we're not clear exactly if we need a vote, but we would ask for one respectfully and on collegiality. What's ambiguous about this is that it is clearly library policy whether to have fines or not, but the money goes into the general fund for reasons I'm not clear on, but that is the situation, so I think it is best that we jointly agree upon this funds. If you look at the numbers that were provided a few years back prior to COVID, the library fines were somewhat significant, not a huge amount, but about 20,000 or so.
About 25,000 if I.
So it was a little moneymaker. However, we now have, and Jesse can clarify and amplify on this, we now have automatic renewals and other measures that serve to reduce the impact of being a slow reader. And so that has brought the figure down to around 34, under 3,500, which is probably less than 0.3% of our budget, and obviously a much tinier percentage of the town budget. So the impact of going fine-free, I don't think is substantial, and it is greatly outweighed by the benefits to our patrons. I had the great joy of taking my grandchildren there as the first stop when I was a visit Scituate. We go to the children's room, and my youngest grandchild is of the philosophy that you do judge a book by its cover. And she was like, I like that, I like that. And she will get, for a 3-day visit, a dozen books. And I know that's the experience of a lot of families that take young children to the library. They will get many books, and it's great for the children. It's not great for a family of 3, say, you get a dozen books for each kid, and whoops, it's 2 weeks late. That does add up as a burden on those young families. The families can probably at least afford that kind of fine. And I believe you have eliminated fines for old people. Well, I'm grateful for that. The trend towards fine-free libraries has been around for some time so that we know whether or not this will have an impact in terms of patron responsibility. And it does not show a problem. It does not result in people saying, I'm just going to keep it because I can. And just, you might want to elaborate on that, particularly how our neighbor libraries have gone fine-free.
Yeah, so 19 out of the 26 libraries in our network have already gone fine-free. And just so people understand, we do take in fine revenue for other libraries. So it used to be, if you took out a book from Hingham, their fines were sky high. You might owe them $10, but you pay it at Scituate. So Scituate actually gets that revenue. Well, Hingham is one of those 19 libraries that's now fine-free. So we're not only taking in less revenue because of this automatic renewal process, which has drastically reduced revenue in and of itself, but also because all of these libraries are no longer charging fines and fees. And it is very confusing for our patrons who visit multiple libraries or who are frequent borrowers from other libraries because they don't understand why are we still charging fees when other libraries are not. So it would standardize us. And I think it's gonna be the direction really that all libraries go in at some point. As Kevin mentioned, it seems to have no impact. If anything, has a beneficial impact on return rates because people are no longer fearful of, I've had this book for so long, who knows how much I own this thing. So they're still returning their materials. And again, as Kevin mentioned, I not only think it has an impact on how much people take out, I know it does because I frequently am down in the children's room where I hear families say, no, you're gonna take out 5 books, because then we get, they get lost, and then, we owe fines, and no, we're just not gonna deal with that. And there's really nothing that makes a librarian more sad than to see a child not take that extra book home, because sometimes it's that 6th book that you really wanted. So this is really a positive move for our patrons. You may have seen, the chart that we were able to put together. FY21 is a bit of an outlier because we were all quarantining materials, so we were not charging fines. There's a tiny amount of fines just at the very end of that fiscal year, as we started to resume fines. But I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, we just think that this is, yet another thing. We already have a 21st century library. It's just keeping us moving in the right direction.
I should point out that many of our patrons are aware of the fine-free policies of other towns, and they are raising that as a question at our front desk. I should point out that Duxbury has yet to go fine-free, but obviously they need the money out. You can understand that. So, just
Thank you, Jess. Open up the board,
I have one question.
board?
I fully support your initiative, but I didn't find in detail what your plan was for the museum passes. So I was looking at some of the other data, and some of the libraries still seem to have those intact, those late fees, which I would agree with, just because it impacts the next user for being able to take that out. So what were your plans for those?
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because museum passes, most museums are going electronic, so we actually give out codes or paper passes that are one-time use. So there's very few, but those few would impact the next user, so we would continue to fund for those. They're also funded by the Friends of the Library, so it's a little bit different. They're not funded directly by the town. So we want to continue to, charge overdues for those, and we'll make that very clear to patrons. This won't be an immediate rollout. If it's granted this evening, we'll take some time to market it. But there is another area of the library that we're going to continue to charge fees for, and that's the Library of Things items. We have several hundred items in that collection now. It's extremely popular. And those items are both costly, and they only go out for a week, and they do impact other people when they don't get returned on time. So we'll continue to charge fees for those as well.
Can you share with me an example of what's in the Library of Things?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you want to take a paddleboard out on the harbor, you can come and get one from us. You can take a ukulele, a tent. We have a movie projector kit with a giant movie projector, a giant blow up kit that you can take home and have a backyard movie night. So tons of games, STEM toys, things like that.
Well, arts and crafts material.
Great.
Griffin, I want to hear more.
Things.
Go to the website and we got pictures.
I've seen that,
Great collection.
No.
We got a bit for now.
Yeah, I just have a question about, I see there's a lot of Old Colony online payments. How does that work?
So anytime anyone owes over $5, they can go and pay online. We actually encourage them to do that because it's just easier, for all of the transactions to be processed. And then that comes to us as a check at the end of the month. That's also the way we would get payment from, say, another library where their patron damaged one of our books, and that goes into general fund.
And then a lost book, I assume that's up to the losee to report themselves as having lost a book?
So we have a system in place that sort of triggers us when a book is long overdue, as we call it. Then we'll reach out to the patron, and so we have lots of systems in place to track down books that may have been overdue for a while. Lost and damaged books will still be charged. This does not impact that at all, because we still want people to take good care of the items that they borrow. So it's really just the overdue fines.
Okay, because I would just be concerned that you can't just never return a book.
No, absolutely not. Then it
Because
would
we
become
have
a
to
lost book.
replace it,
That's right,
so we have the cost of replacing it.
absolutely.
I believe that money does go back to the library, not the town, just because we need to expend that from our funds to replace this book that we have had.
Well, and to be clear about the fine issue going into the general fund, I believe that when the police department gives you a speeding ticket, it goes into the general fund, Jim? And same thing with the Conservation Commission, if they fine you, it goes into the general fund.
Unless the statute specifies that it goes someplace else, and everything goes to the general fund.
Thank you.
So, I think that's probably why, we appreciate you coming here, because it does have, even if not a huge impact, it does have an impact on the town budget, so I appreciate it. I think it's great, I was a scofflaw when I was young.
Jesse,
Kevin? One of your.
Yeah.
one other consideration, because this is what occurred to me, is if somebody requests a book and it's been out for a while, the person who has it out gets a notice that that book should be coming back, even if, like, let's say somebody had, I don't know, I was looking for Mrs. Picklewheel for one of my kids, and I couldn't have it, but whoever had it out would get a notice if it was overdue, or that somebody
Notices
now
will
wants it.
continue to go out, so they'll be called fine-free notices, but we'll continue to remind people, hey, we do want that item back from you. And if not, you'll get a bill notice from us to pay for it.
Well, I highly recommend the Seinfeld episode about the overtime time.
I don't really have any questions, thank you for the backup. I guess the only question is just for the record, I assume that your board was fully in support of this?
Yes.
Yes. And I would request, Mr. Chair, after we finish with this item, could we just spend a minute on the concept of what needs to be brought to this board, because that has been gray, in the past. Trustees of an elected board have a charter and what they're supposed to do, and just, because I don't think we've ever discussed that in
Yeah.
2 months.
Sure, yeah, that was on my list. Actually, you guys touched everything, although I don't think we're gonna be able to resolve that.
No.
I think the only clear thing is that it is unclear. We appreciate you coming to us, the town administrator of the board is responsible for the budget, that is a budget component, so, I think there's a line of responsibility for us to be involved in that decision. And I know Karen's done some research, that it's kind of a little unclear in terms of what the trustees or the board does on, so, I mean, I think we're on the same page with this, so I don't think it's a big deal, but I agree with Karen that we should probably convene at some point in time to find out, try and, unmurky those waters so that we know what to do in the future. And Jim, you probably have some input on that in terms of what type of items the trustees would come to us for and what ones they wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think things that impact the general fund budget, impact things like that need to come back here.
So I would say financial stuff, policy stuff is under your purview, so. Okay, you guys agree? Yes, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna come back to it, I totally agree. I mean, I guess I just wanna say, I think it's fabulous. And I want folks at home to know how the communication from the library, how great it's been, and just with the self-serve kiosks, and you'll be able to get another book, and the emails that you get, I mean, it's, so for folks that might be a little, what's happening, it's just fabulous, all the work we've done through that communication just helps residents, and it's just wonderful, so.
Thank you.
A lot easier.
Great, any questions from the audience on this? Seeing none, no one from the board, can I have a motion?
Move that the select board allow the library to forego charging fines for the majority of its items excluding library things.
Second?
Second by Ms. Conley, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye, it is unanimous. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much. This is a huge thing for our patrons.
Great, now are we talking about the garden? As well, great.
As many of you know, we were funded, there was actually an application put in by Ginny Ayers and the Scituate Library Foundation, along with the Goulding family, to create a reading area, a quiet reading space, a patio, hardscape area with a seating wall. That's the part that's gonna be funded through this particular aspect of the project, but the whole project is the seating area plus also a pollinator garden. And that piece will be sort of the second phase of the project, and that is gonna be used, the funding for that is gonna be private funding and foundation funding. But within the scope of this project, there is conduit for gravity-fed irrigation. And that is already part of this particular project. What is not part of it is some water retention tanks that we're going to need to invest in that I'm hoping to also potentially get some private funding for. And so we're gonna use the gutter system that was done within the last year at the library and capture water on site to be able to irrigate the garden, because we do understand the importance of that. And we're gonna be utilizing native plants, which are also quite drought resistant. So we hope that this will also be sort of an educational thing as well. But this is for the contract for the hardscape itself. Northern Oak was the low bidder on this project. And I'm happy to answer any further questions that I have.
Can you just explain what the alt one bid is for?
So that was the water retention tanks themselves, which unfortunately no one put that in the scope.
No, but they did, it is part of the project though.
No, I believe they would have had to, so I believe the price that they put on that alternate would have been too expensive for the entire project. I think that this is just that 78,984, it's just the base bid.
From the backup, it looks like the 78 is a combination of the two.
Oh, okay, I'm so sorry,
It's okay.
I left my other folder.
Nancy, are you aware? No. We can, while you look that up, we can, anyone have any questions on the garden itself or anything that's going on there?
I just wanna thank the foundation and the trustees for, this has been years of work to get to this point. So very excited to see shovels in the ground in this project actually go forward. And my only notes were irrigation from runoff with lots of exclamation points. So thank you for that feature.
It looks like the 78 is the total.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
apologize, you're correct.
So we will be getting the irrigation system. Okay, great, yes, that's great.
Any other questions?
No, that's it.
No, I think we saw a design when you first came in forth, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yes, so.
It's to the, between the library and this central.
Exactly, yeah. So right behind where we have the concerts right now, so it'll be a lovely addition to the programming as well.
Questions from the audience or comments?
Just a comment that
Okay,
education, I'm sorry, Ginny Ayers to Prospect Ave. The education component of it with the pollinator garden that Jesse mentioned, you know, the library did some programming this summer on pollinator gardens. It's a very popular topic. And I think that the Goulding family, whose kind of brainchild this was, very much, you know, I think having it be an educational, having there be an educational component, signage on the importance of water retention, water recycling, pollinators, et cetera, will be very much a part of the project.
Anyone else? If not, can I have a motion? And this was, it just, where did the funding come from? I'm sorry.
The CPC.
This,
Move that the select board award the contract to create the hardscape of Roseway Terrace and Garden to Northern Oak Landscaping for $78,984.
Second?
second by Ms. Canfield, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous. Great, thanks for coming in. Good work, everybody.
Thank you.
When will work start?
When does the work gonna start, Jess?
Oh, I'm sorry, it should start as early as October and hopefully the team completed by the end of this year.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming in. Thanks for coming last night too. Okay. The next vote and discussion is report 143. Come on up.
Oh,
All right,
well, how are you?
great. So this is for a special event permit,
It is
other
another event.
fun activities, right?
We're open to you.
So tell us about it.
So we're gonna run in conjunction with the Fall for Scituate on the 23rd of October. We spoke with them, they're excited. We're gonna have our own event really, that will be pretty much the same thing we did the last time. We're gonna have a one-person music with an amplifier, which should be nice. We'll rope the area off, we'll have some taps, we'll be serving beer and wine. And have an event. So looking forward to it.
Tell us about the last one. How many people showed up for that event?
So I would say about 50 to 75. There was a lot of come and go. It was a nice event. It was a beautiful day. A lot of families, a lot of our customer base. Everyone was very excited. We had a food truck with that event. We set some tables up outside and people enjoyed that as well.
Alright,
Yeah, well,
any questions?
Just about the layout, so, the side path, no, is that is there a way to get to the parking lot behind there?
the driveway.
Yeah,
No, so what we did is, we had 2 porta potties that we moved to block the back driveway, and, a car was parked behind that, and it was roped off. So we ran rope from actually the vehicle was the best way to do it, to the fence, for the, train. And then we came off the fence and then kind of went around the perimeter.
and that delineates your serving area then too, that.
Completely, yeah, that was the idea, just so people had the idea of where to be and where not to be.
I assume that there's, I don't remember, there's all for Scituate come, they haven't come yet. Yeah, I think when they come, we need to just make sure that we have, people keeping an eye crossing that, country way.
So I think we'll have a detail that day as well. I talked to Officer Billings, and he can put some notes on the application as well. We
Okay,
wanted to
sorry,
have
I
a
missed that on
detail, yeah, like in conjunction with them. So, I think that'll work out just fine.
Yeah, no, that was my own concern, I'm sure it's gonna be very popular and
I think so, it should be good.
you've been a great addition to North Scituate, so
Thank you.
it's exciting.
Karen, any questions?
No, I'm good, more than merrier.
No, I mean, actually, all the other business, I mean, it's fabulous for for all of our Scituate, and folks are very happy, everything went very well. So no, look forward to it, and
Great.
several cashews.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. They'll be available.
More, did you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Good.
I'm fine too.
Thank
Yep,
you.
it's a great event, hopefully the weather will work with us, and,
Excellent.
any questions from the audience? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
There's
There's
3
of them,
motions.
yeah.
I'll do them all together, is that okay? Move to approve a special event permit for Board 143 Beer Garden on October 23rd, 2022 from 12 to 4 p.m. And move to approve a one-day wine and malt beverages license for Board 143 Beer Garden on October 23rd, 2022 from 12 to 4 p.m. And move to approve an outdoor entertainment license for Board 143 Beer Garden on October 23rd, 2022 from 12 to 4.
Second by Ms. Conlon,
Discussion?
yes?
I knew I had a question, I had a note here, but I couldn't find it, that's why I was scrolling in. A lot of it seems, a lot of things are still pending, like your tip certification and things like that, so has anything been updated since we got our backup?
So the tip certification is that it's the same as the last application, and that hasn't expired. I think that's 2 years.
Okay, so you just need to present it, is that, cause it says certification of insurance and tips, is pending.
Well, the certification of insurance, it's kind of weird. It can't be awarded until the actual license is awarded for the day.
Okay, so it's,
So that's what happened last time as well. So we gotta wait until we actually got it, and then we went and got the insurance. So there'll be a one-day liability, alcohol liability insurance policy for the event.
And we'll follow up on that,
okay,
Yeah,
I just wanted to bring that to your
and I
attention.
can.
I saw it somewhere, I couldn't find
I
it.
can submit more copies of the tip certification, that's the problem.
Well, your current staff is tip certified, aren't they, are you?
So it's a different tip certification, so we're tip certified to sell, but we needed an additional second one to serve. So we did that for the last event, and it carries through. Yeah.
Question? Any others? All right, so we have a motion, we have a second, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? It is unanimous.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome, we'll see you there.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Our next discussion vote is with the fire department. Contract for our new ambulance. Chief, how are you? Yes.
You look familiar.
So we're here to talk about the ladder truck on Scientology.
That's right.
That's right, that's a good one.
So I'm here to request to approve the contract, of specialty vehicles for the purchase of the new ambulance that was approved last night, at a special town meeting. And the reason to move it up to special town meeting instead of spring town meeting twofold. The extent and the time it's taken to get these built. You know, get the chassis out there. It's typically 6 to 8, 9 months to build once you get the chassis and this may take a year and a half to get. So we're just trying to keep, the third ambulance we have right now is pretty tired. So we're just trying to keep in line and make sure we're, keeping our service going. So we're hoping by, January, February of next year, 24, that we have this ambulance here. Second part is after next October 1st, the price goes up another $33,000. So that's how we sort of fast track this and last night, tonight, to try to get that, the box in the back, the Lifeline box is $270,000, it goes up 10% next week. And the central system, which is about 65,000 plus the CPI machine, they're going up 9%. So prices just keep going. So I just, if we can streamline this and get it done, we can save the town $33,000 and get it timely manner.
Great. Questions? Karen?
Just, Chief, I just have a question about the process. So there's, tons and tons of specs on this. Who oversees to ensure that, this is a lot of money, that the things that we're getting are what we need, or like, what's that process like?
So we designed, this is the third ambulance we bought from this company, and everybody's been happy with it. So I give a budget to our paramedics when they first had a team of paramedics. A lot of this stuff is boilerplate, but the things that we do pick as cabinets according to what we have, where your plugs are going to be, how much your gear locker is through the CDAs and stuff like that. So they've gone through this. This is the third one, so we basically did the same exact thing, minus a couple of adjustments in the cabinets. So we sat down the first time we met, it was a long process. And to have everybody be happy with the choice for the third time doesn't happen often. So with 40 to 35 paramedics, so that's the process. Took early, so it makes it a little bit easier now when we go with almost the same product. So, but it is a daunting task for us to try to learn this. Actually, probably 85 is boilerplate, the rest of it is, designed to what you're looking for. So there is a lot of information in there. Let's go with it. It's daunting.
It's a lot of pages, right?
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
More?
Is there only one state-approved ambulance supplier?
Nope, there's several
Does
out
this
there.
go
They're
out
on the
to
state,
bid,
they're on the
or-
state bid list.
You just use one that's on the state
We
bid
use
list?
them and we've been happy with them, and they're as competitive as anybody. So this is the best, basically the best price we can get for the product. Lifeline box in the back, they're known to be one of the better builders. We've actually, in the old days, we've had some boxes in the back that started to have cracks in them. So we went with the Lifeline box, which is, out there, it's the best one for the money. So that's what we went with, and it works well. We've had good luck with 2 so far. So the third one here, I think, we stick with what works.
So why don't we put it up to bid?
It's not on the state contract, it's from a national purchasing cooperative, HGAC.
Oh, okay.
It gets very complicated when you put it up to bid yourself because you're specifying one
There's too many
thing.
specs, yeah.
This is equivalent to that, it's not the same, but it's equivalent, and you get into a lot of issues with the quality and whether, so it's much simpler and cleaner, especially if you have a bid that you like and it's manufactured to that.
Not everybody, most use Ford, we want to use Ram, because Ram has a Cummins diesel, and our mechanic, all of our engines in our trucks is Cummins diesels. So Eric Noah's our mechanic, and he's certified to work on Cummins, so we can do the work in-house. He's certified to do that, so instead of going to the Ford, which is a different type of diesel engine, it's another component. The reason why we put this company.
Andrew?
Just with all the delays and everything, what are we expecting for delivery, or is it still what we?
Usually, I'm hoping within 18 months, if the contract is signed and we get this going. So he just told me they opened up the commercial fleet ordering for Dodge Ram for like a week. And that cost went up $9,000. So fortunately, we're trading in an old ambulance for $10,000, but that's already escalated. We couldn't control that, but next week, like I say, the cost is about $33,000 in 10 days. So he did order them, and that window's closed, so it's all up to when they get the chassis. Once we get the chassis, the box, they build it, and that's probably a 6 to 8 month build time when we get the chassis. So we were trying to talk to him early on. Hey, Mr. Order a chassis. There's a likelihood we're gonna approve this, but when they order a bunch of them, order us one. So he did. So hopefully we can get this within 18 months. Typically it takes less than a year. But we have a forest truck. We bought a demo recently, And a great truck, but they were looking rockable, the same one we did in March of 21, they still haven't got the chassis in. 18 months out, so stuff's taking a long time, it's getting more expensive, so we're just trying to be proactive to see if we can get it earlier and at a better price.
Thanks for staying with it.
Any questions?
No.
Great, and just noting that we mentioned earlier that we have a grant, it's paying for this, correct?
For the
No.
grant is for the
I'm
forest truck.
sorry, it's for the vote.
The forest truck is all, is a grant, we've got
This was
that.
approved
Yeah.
through,
This is approved
the
in
capital
capital
grant
grant.
last year.
But the forest, yeah, the forest truck we purchased last spring, $250,000, that was through a grant.
Right.
This is a five-way grant, so yeah, we've got 1.7 million so far in the last few years.
There's so many fleets, Tony.
I know.
It's hard to keep track.
Hopefully,
We're not
hopefully we wouldn't,
accumulating.
we wouldn't jump the regular capital process to pull this up because of the escalations and the lead time. Stuff is important.
And just to be clear, we are getting a lot of new stuff, so we're not building our fleet as much as replacing our fleet.
No, we're just trying to stay up with the fleet and make sure, because we're running twice as far as most towns to the hospital, we're running 25 minutes. Where most towns are 10, 12, 13 minutes away. So we're doing twice the workload and twice the wear and tear on the ambulance to do the same amount of time.
Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, if there's,
Yep.
oh, there's one, yes, sir. Name and address.
My name's Ted Good, 21 Grasshopper Lane, and I just want to see, are there any other good buys before the price goes up?
Better get it quick. Yeah. You don't want to know what a ladder truck costs.
Can I have a motion?
Move to award the contract to Specialty Vehicles Inc. to build and deliver the Breed ambulance and associated equipment for $434,915.
Second by Ms. Kern, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye, it is unanimous, great.
Great, thank you.
Chief, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Yeah, we need one. Corey, how are you? We're gonna review, discuss, and vote on the charge of the Coal Parkway redevelopment committee.
So, as you know, in August 2020, the town developed the Scituate Harbor Resiliency Master Plan to guide future growth, conservation, and infrastructure enhancements in the harbor over the next 25 years. The Harbor Master Plan was developed through extensive stakeholder engagement and community involvement. This plan, plus another plan called the 2070 Coastal Vision Study, did an excellent job of laying the groundwork and framing the vision for a flood resilient harbor district. Earlier this year, the town received a grant for $50,000, which we would begin to implement this vision and the recommendations from that plan and the other studies. As you know, Coal Parkway already experiences nuisance flooding from astronomical high tides a few times per year. According to the Massachusetts Coastal Flood Risk Model, the high emissions scenario for sea level rise suggests that we could see another 2.5 feet of relative sea level rise by 2050. That would mean more flooding in the parking lot more often, because it sneaks up through the storm drain. Because this part of town is so heavily used by many different stakeholders, I'm proposing that the select board form a new committee to help guide the design process and form recommendations for what the redevelopment should look like. Membership would consist of 7 voting members, with 1 member from the select board, 1 member from the Scituate Harbor Business Association, 1 member from the Scituate Harbor Cultural District Committee, 1 member from the Economic Development Commission, 1 member from the Coast Guard, 1 member from the Scituate Waterways Commission, 1 member from the Coastal Advisory Commission, and 2 non-voting members consisting of the Harbor Master and Coastal Management Officer. Members of this committee would be appointed to a 2-year term, and the business of the committee would be conducted in accordance with Massachusetts open meeting law.
Great, good summary. Any questions about the forming of this committee?
Corey, I just want to say that, you know, the work that was done on the master plan is so detailed, and this was the most actionable thing that would have the greatest impact, so I really I'm happy that you brought this forward and that we're gonna get moving. I think that, with the funds that are set to be distributed at the state level in the next 2 years, the faster we get it designed, the more likely we are gonna be in line for those sorts of resiliency projects. So I'm fully in favor of this, and thank you I spoke with her, the other day about, the composition. And she originally proposed the board one member, a member from the fishing community. And in our discussion, when we realized that the waterways represents a lot of, we required somebody from that community to be on it, so that it was sort of double dipping. So that was removed and replaced with economic development from the original proposal.
So that's not what you just read?
You have a revised one.
Okay, you read fishing, so that's gonna be EDC instead of the fishing?
Economic development, yes.
And waterways remain.
And waterways.
How do we feel about that?
I'm fine with that, I just have a question, maybe about Karen.
Anyone have any comments on the makeup of the committee?
Well, yeah, I'm curious on the reasoning behind having someone from the Coast Guard.
Because they live there, and own property there.
And,
But should they be a voting member, is that kind of?
Yeah. whether or not the interests always align, I guess was my thinking, from state, federal to town.
I mean,
Course,
Cory
I
and
think
I talked
was
about
as
that.
always, like any other person.
Probably two reasons. One, they are an integral part of the harbor, harbor safety. When we do down there, so we want to make sure that they're involved. Two, might be more political. I want them involved, and I want them to be part of Scituate Harbor, so they don't just decide in the dark of the night like they almost did this year to pack up the lake. So those are my two thoughts of putting it together.
I think you have a good point. I mean, it's really deals more with Cole Parkway than the harbor. I mean, I understand having them there, but as a voting member, it may be more as an advisory. I mean, do they want to be on there? Have we spoken to them and they want to attend?
No, I haven't even spoken to them yet. But, I mean, if you want to change the composition.
I mean, it is about Cole Parkway, but we also have to make sure that whatever we do on Cole Parkway, it's so connected to the harbor. The reason we want the maritime interest is we don't want to be doing things that are gonna impede access to the harbor. So we don't want to put a big hump all of a sudden in the boat ramp and then some boat comes in and says you can't get a trailer over that. What do you do? You can't. So that's why we want to make sure we have a lot of maritime interest also on the spot.
And
That was sort of just my question. Is there a definition of a redevelopment committee as far as from the master plan aspect? So is it just looking at the parking lot and the resiliency of the buildings around there? Or is it the entire, sort of edge coastline all the way through the fishing piers? What's the scope of it? So I know we say Cole Parkway, but that's a very small thing, and once you do one adaptation correction in one area, we all know what it impacts.
Right, so I think a lot of those really specific questions will kind of be part of what this committee is charged with and looking at, is developing, that scope of like which areas are we gonna look at, which areas are we interested, which areas would be making most impact on, just getting this area out of being flooded by high tide.
Okay.
So you really have to almost go around
Yeah,
by the old bank. I mean, we do Cole Parkway, what is the water coming? The Wolf.
right.
So you're gonna have to go in this course, and all those areas are gonna have to be incorporated and contributing to the flooding down there.
any other discussions on the
Yeah.
composition?
I wanna say, I think it's good news that Cory's doing this because she's also working on the Pier 44 project, and hopefully, Laura's mentioned more than a few times, the Jericho boat ramp area of the state. It just seems to me as though, for example, with the gazebo down at Cole Parkway, what are we gonna do with it? Do we do something at Pier 44 instead? But there's not that much land at Pier 44, and so how does this all work together? So I agree, but I think Cory's kind of the common thread here, the linchpin, if you will, so we'll work for her, but it's good to be thinking of them all together, so I appreciate it. And I do think it is a good idea to have the Coast Guard. I think we should embrace them and make them feel like they actually do belong to us.
I guess my comment would be, first, I just wanna make sure that they do wanna participate, and that there's someone there that feels that they wanna go to all the meetings and do that. I am a little concerned about taking off the fishing community. I know that there's a small component of it that is in the waterways, but we're a fishing, village down there, and it's only one of, how many members are on Waterline?
A lot.
A lot. So it's one of a lot, so more than likely, the representation there is gonna be from the recreational boater. And I think that there's probably more of an impact on the fishing industry than the Coast Guard as it applies to that area, so, I don't know, what do you guys think?
I think maybe a solution would be if you can keep the Coast Guard involved, but maybe put the Coast Guard as a non-voting member, the same as the harbor master, and then make the fishing community the voting member in the place of the Coast Guard.
I like that.
That way the Coast Guard still has a seat at the table, but they don't necessarily have to attend every meeting and get into the nitty-gritty.
They may not want to vote as federal employees, I mean, that could be a prohibition, but I do think they should be on the committee.
That's great, I support that change, if that, does that work for you, Cory?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And I guess I wonder why we would put EDC on there before like planning or Concom.
Actually, Karen and I talked about this the other day, because planning is the regulatory body, planning board would be the regulatory body that would have to go in front of to have our plans approved, should they become, actionable.
So,
My head was kind of in that same space, but I was more from an engineering aspect, like there's not really an engineer on the committee either, or that type of technical representation, it's all more economical, which is great, but I think what we're looking at is more technical.
yeah, I
As
don't
far as
really see
design
EDC as a component of this, from my perspective. I mean, we're looking for protection of the harbor, not economic development opportunities though. I mean, that would be a byproduct of making the harbor more resilient, but it seems to me there's probably, like Lauren mentioned, more people that have technical expertise that, I mean, we're really talking about building a wall, keeping the water rise out of there. Who's the best person to participate in that? One second.
Yeah, okay, I thought you were asking.
So I mean, those are my thoughts on Ms. Canfield?
Sorry, Stefan. I agree that the technical piece, I mean, normally they would, work on this with, would you be working with a consultant on this one? Yeah, would provide that expertise, because it clearly is above the pay grade of the folks that would volunteer to serve on this. On the EDC piece, if you'll remember that in the master plan that was prepared, there was a description of making it a park-like area on top. The structure itself could become a feature in the harbor, not just a wall to protect the water. It could be incorporated as a more of a recreational feature. That's something, when it was developed, that the EDC was very interested in having part of the conversation, because if you do that, sort of the soft side of it correctly, it can be a draw to bring people into downtown as well. So the rationale for that was to make sure that it wasn't just technical, that we made sure whatever was proposed addressed economic development in the harbor. That was the rationale.
Yeah, I just don't see, I see this as more of a protection as opposed to development. Is my take on what this committee's, what the master plan is kind of looking for from this, and we're talking about sea level rise. How are we gonna protect our harbor? I mean, I don't have a huge fight one way or the other, I just don't see the connection as much as that. I mean, What do you, any thoughts, or you want, is EDC the right person on there?
I mean, I was looking at to just kind of limit it for just manageability of taking some off, just to make it more manageable, make it easier, less so who the actual person was, but I mean, we're protecting the harbor because it's an economic engine of the town, and people live there as well, and if this is going to be expensive, right, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. And if there is a way to recoup any funding from that, if there is a honeypot, or if there's some way to come in, having, if you're comfortable having that many folks in that committee for that size, I don't see the downside of having someone with the economic eye to say, hey, maybe this aspect could help bring in. I'm with you, it's protection, but also can you also make it something beyond protection if we're gonna spend all this money?
You just brought up a really good point. To me, we don't have a resident on here. We've got all these condominiums down there, we've got all these people that are invested there. I know we have the business community, so the businesses are, should there be a resident?
Well, I'm gonna say that if I had to get rid of one at this point, I would get rid of the cultural district. I think it's kind of soon, maybe for them to be on, because whatever we're gonna build, they're sort of a later stage, if you will, group, and you can almost make that case for economic development as well, that they're somewhat later stage involvement. But you do want to have someone looking at it from the viewpoint of how is this going to look? What are we trying to do? Are there possibilities that another perspective would see in it? But I would say the cultural district is probably much less important. Like I said, Corey's kind of a linchpin here, because when we've got the Pier 44 situation going on, we've got the cultural district very much involved in that. We've got EDC involved in that. We've got the Recreation Commission. You could argue that almost every commission in town might belong on this, but we can't do that. So,
Well, I'm fine with just replacing the fishing and moving the Coast Guard down to the non-voting, that change. You don't wanna have an even number, so you wanna either have 7 or 5, and I'm not sure that we're at a point where you wanna remove 2 of these recommended attendees, and hey, let's give it a go, we can always add or change 2 years later, but like Corey had started.
Yeah, I would have a resident.
Well, they're all residents, but you mean,
Well,
you mean like the condo association?
like just somebody, yeah,
Someone who lives
a
there.
non-committee member.
If some of the general, like one of those condos.
yeah, you'd have to live,
Yeah, you wouldn't have them living on
yeah, you'd have to live in the harbor.
Poetry Lane.
Harbor resident as I think Tom is correct about cultural really is, I think their value will be definitely once the technical stuff is figured out. So I would agree that we replaced a harbor resident with cultural, that would make sense.
Yeah, the more I think about it, you're absolutely right, because they're gonna be able to talk to all those folks, there's such an impact,
They live there.
their cars
Put
are
up with
there,
it all.
flooded.
Okay, so is the final outcome, add the resident, get rid of the cultural committee, move the Coast Guard down, and put EDC where Coast Guard is?
No, add a fishing ground where the Coast Guard was.
The fishing's already noted.
No, you're
Oh, on
the
hers.
old one, it's
I'm
not-
sorry,
yeah.
I'm the old one.
So yes, to pass, yes.
Okay.
Do you want me to make a motion with those adjustments?
Sure.
Or do we need to make a motion for this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, move to accept,
But before you get any comments from the audience? Okay.
Move to accept proposal from the Cole Parkway Redevelopment Committee charged with the amended changes, deleting the Scituate Harbor Cultural District Committee member and adding a harbor resident. Moving the Coast Guard member to a non-voting member. and adding replacing with the fishing community representative as a voting member. Is that clear enough, Lori? Or you want me to-
Yes, no, that's fine.
Is that good? Okay. Second.
Second by Ms. Canfield for discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Aye, it is unanimous. When do you think you'll get started? Without, I mean, I guess sending the committees, they'll probably get those appointed pretty quickly. We just have to find the resident.
Yeah, I can start reaching out to the different commissions, boards right away, and at their next meeting, maybe they could add it to their agenda to nominate a representative to serve. I'm not sure how to reach out to the fishing community or the harbor residents.
Well, typically what we do is once the charge is approved by the select board, we publish it, and we publish the openings, and reach out to the boards and committees for volunteers. So
There's a
I
fishing-
can work with Corey.
Yeah, there's a fishing association that we could get in touch with that group. Probably just put flyers up in 3 or 4 contacts.
Okay.
But thank you very much for really taking a big plan and biting off a piece of it and moving forward, so. Good job. Yes.
Corey, where are we on the contract for the Pier 44 consultant?
We're just negotiating some small fine print details.
Okay.
I sent back some comments for some changes and wanted a retainer that we were like in a way, so. So I think probably they'll get back to me in the next few days with a new contract that does not include the retainer.
Yeah, we just want to get that moving along, as you know.
I know, we're all eager to get this.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Cory.
Thank you, Cory. The next topic of discussion and vote is for Captain Mike's tiki boat proposal.
Going, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You must be Mike.
I am, I'm Michael Fallon, from 105 Market Street, Duxbury, Luxbury.
Don't tell them.
So, thanks for having me. I'm here to discuss, I guess my mission, which is to attain a hawker peddler's permit for a food boat, much like a food truck at the Spit. From what I understand, if sales are not being conducted from a tent, booth, building, or other structure, a hawker's peddler's license is required. I'm on a boat, which I believe is a structure. However, I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that I still require the hawker's peddler. The next part of that is any person who wishes to sell any goods or merchandise other than those listed in section D must have state hawkers and peddlers license, state sales tax and meals tax, a business certificate if necessary, from the Board of Selectmen's office, which is why I'm here. And I wanted to do it at the Spit, which I'm not gonna insult your intelligence, I assume you all know about the Spit. So to give you a little background and history, the company is 3 years old. We've served hundreds of customers, food, hot dogs, ice cream, drinks, sodas, shaved ice, version pina coladas and stuff. So we've made a lot of people very, very happy. What we do is we load up the boat at our commissary, head out, go to one location, usually a day, until we either sell out or it's just too late, and then we head out. So it's a very simple operation. I'll just leave it to the questions if you guys have any.
Sure, can you just describe your boat first so that we get a sense of what,
Describe the boat, yeah, so
is
it's
it a pontoon boat it looks like?
yes, Selectman, it's a 2 pontoons, it's a pontoon with 2 logs, some have 3, but this one is 2. It's 24 foot long by 8 wide, and it's outfitted with a full kitchen to sustain the whole day. It includes a deep chest freezer, 3-bay sink with hot running water that gets up to 110 degrees for hand washing. I don't know how deep you want to get into the weeds.
Or do you have any cooking on it? There's no fire, is there any?
So we have a hot dog steamer, which is an electric hot dog steamer, but there's no grease on board and there's no raw meat,
No open flame.
no open flame. It's just a kind of dinky electric steamer, if you will. So no, nothing, yeah.
And one last question before I open it up. Could you just tell the board about your boating experience?
Absolutely. So I'm a United States Marine for one, so I'm very used to the water. I grew up on boats. I don't have a captain's license, but over the last few years, I've gotten pretty good at, navigating the waters. So I would say I'm, pretty good behind the wheel.
And just one more question. If you can just tell us where do you do this now?
Yeah, right now we do this in Plymouth and Duxbury. So we have one boat that goes to Browns Bank, which is a sandbar in Plymouth. And then we have a jet ski which goes to Eagle's Nest, which is like a harbor in Duxbury, and it goes boat to boat. So the jet ski goes boat to boat in Duxbury and just kind of serves things that are kept warm or cold, like prepackaged ice cream or hot dogs. And then the boat goes sandbar and just posts up. It's not going boat to boat, it's just posted up, much like an ice cream truck, and has a little bit more of a menu because it's bigger, it can sustain all kinds of equipment. So we also go to like private events with the boat, sometimes on land, on private property, such as Duxbury Yacht Club. If they want to have a little cocktails on the porch, we'll show up to those. And it's nothing but just good reception. People really love us. There's not much to not like about it, but yeah, we have I don't know if you've gotten a chance to see our presentation. It's very, it's just, the kids love it. It's kid friendly, eco friendly. So that's my case on it.
Great. Let me open up to the board. I'm sure they have a question. Anyone wants to start? More?
Yeah,
So I love your idea.
Thank you.
Where would you operate your boat out of for the service in Scituate?
Good question. So we're planning on docking it at the Heron River, which is kind of like a inland river. So it's away from the harbor. You have to get there. You have to launch from that boat ramp, I believe, and then we would go from the Heron River down to the Spit. It's just a 10-minute boat ride.
And how much experience do you have operating a boat in the Spit channel and area? Because it's not like a sandbar, even though it is a sandbar. It's a pretty treacherous area, so I just would, worry about a service like that in the Spit area.
So the reason we chose the Heron River is because you don't have to go through where the iconic waves where it gets really crazy, that inlet. You bypass that because you trailer it to the Heron River, launch it at that dock, and then you're in calm water right to the Spit. So you actually avoid that craziness. I'm not launching from like North River or Scituate Harbor Marina. Okay. In which I would have to navigate through that debauchery. But yeah, the Heron River is chosen.
And your goal is to actually moor during the day, or do you spend the entire day there? So talk to me a little bit about how long you stay and.
Yeah, so it would be just for 4 to 6 hours a day where we pull up and anchor.
So you drop it in every day, it's in and out every day, you trailer it out, you bring it in?
Actually, what I would do is pay to leave it in the water from about March or April, probably like April, May to October. It's you pay for that whole, it's a lump sum, you pay for the whole year and it stays in the water. So you really just trailer it out, in and out twice a year. And then it's just in the water, and there's electricity on this dock. So, things can stay, there's a hose, just for all that kind of stuff.
Have you met with any of our safety team, like our harbor master yet, or our, we have, pretty significant, marine patrol out there as well. Have you met with any of our resources to kind of talk about the waters and where would be the best places?
No, because I wanted to get the permission from top down first. I've emailed Michelle Sigesi back and forth quite a bit, and for good reason, she said just to hold off on things like the Board of Health, Harbor Master, although I shouldn't say it was a complete no. I did call the police department. I talked to, was it Taylor Hawken or, no, not Taylor, that's the Foo Fighters. Taylor, yeah, and I never got a hold of any Harbor Master officials, but yeah, police department. And I actually applied for the Board of Health permit, probably a little bit prematurely. And then me and Megan spoke and decided that this would be probably the best place to start. Because when I did this in Plymouth, I didn't actually have to get like much more than just a Board of Health permit from Plymouth. But I just wanted to make sure I do it the way you guys insist here and just go through the loops and the right process, so.
I appreciate that, we're not always clear. I think for me, this is a big safety issue, and I would love for him to meet with, whether it's waterways, harbor master, and also a marine unit. I love your business idea, but I'm worried about the safety of it. And I don't feel like I'm equipped to make that determination.
You did get emails sent to you from the harbor master
I did,
and the
yeah.
police chief. They do have concerns about
Right.
how crowded the spit gets
Right.
and how this would interact with those crowds. But if you did approve it, then you would have to make actually probably definitive safety plans with them. So.
Yeah, it was a similar process in Plymouth where I went to all the departments.
Yeah.
Concerned about safety, and we made, fine detail.
That's how you did it in
agreements.
Plymouth? Yeah.
Yeah, I had to get my foot in the door in every single department, it seems like, and just kind of ensure that, we beat a dead horse with it and made sure that nothing could possibly go wrong. But we primarily worked with the harbor master. Yeah, I mean, that's really, really it. And then it just was common sense on my end.
I mean, that would be my only recommendation. I know that may not be the right, I don't wanna give a license when we have some issues and.
Nothing's insurmountable, it's kind of a chicken and egg.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
And
gonna
I'm
be
not
on the
trying
ground.
to be difficult, I'm just,
It's gonna take all his time, take Taylor's time, take Steve's time, takes everybody's time to come up with a plan, and then you have to, we just don't. We don't like the idea, it's just not a place we want a vendor out there. So, in the other towns, he didn't have to get a vendor's license like this. I think we have a unique kind of those requirements, so we want to come here first, get the idea approved. I mean, if he's not in favor of it, then he's not gonna take his time
Right.
and take their time to go through the whole process, but there are some significant concerns, as you brought up, the spit is not Plymouth Bay, it's not Browns Bridge, it's a lot more crowded, there's a lot more issues on the water out there, but nothing insurmountable if the board likes the idea.
I mean,
Listen to
if I
everybody
could
else.
Michelle and I talked this through so much too, and the only process we really have is the hawker peddler process. And what difference really is a truck or a boat? I mean, it is a difference, but it's the process that we have and all the requirements that we have, and that's why we suggested it.
So I'll tell where my head is. Number one, I heard a few years ago, we told someone, great Wall Street Journal article about one of the most profitable and fastest growing franchises for tiki boats. And this will not be the last one we'll see. In Florida, South Carolina, they are exploding everywhere, and it's become so.
There's already one that goes through the harbor daily.
Yeah, I mean, so part of it's like, we're gonna have this kind of conversations there. And I don't wanna ever step on someone's ability to try to provide for themselves. What I think is a great idea of serving hot dogs and ice cream and non-alcoholic drinks in one place. My concern, sorry, to speak for myself, is it's because of the location and safety of the spit. I don't think that can be overcome. So I do think we can overcome those safety issues and we can do that. I don't wanna get the text message from Jim that something terrible happened. We wanna make sure that you're safe, our residents are safe, because that place is just terrible. We want it to be a success and make sure that all the boat safety issues have gone through and that, you know, my kid wants a hot dog and ice cream, that everything's gonna be safe when they're out there enjoying it. So I mean, I would love for him to try and, personally, I think, help develop that safety plan. I don't know how we can say to someone trying to sell a couple of Diet Cokes and a hot dog, when what else does go on out there, would be hypocritical in my mind. But yeah, I would love to really work on just the safety aspect to make sure that you're safe as well as the residents. And that's just where my head is.
Yeah, a couple of quick questions. I think it's a great model. I was on vacation last summer or last winter with 10 families from Scituate and they're like, we need a tiki bar. So you are definitely tapping a market. I think Ms. Curran's point about the safety, I agree. There's, you know, on a hot day, there's a lot of boats out there and I think that they can work with our safety officers to find a plan if you're stationary. Just a couple of the business model. So you're gonna dock it at private dock during, you know, for the whole season. So does that mean this is your second boat or are you going to just be at this boat?
It does mean that this is our second boat, yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's been purchased, we have it, we started building all the sinks and I've been hard at work with that, so.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
that's a big step. Yeah, I think the point of just making folks know, because the folks that live, you know, all the access, just to let them know this is happening, if they, you know, the board doesn't plan to give a license. I think it's really important that he came in and had this conversation with him, because it is very busy there, so it's a good location. We've had other folks try to go out in there and leave the permanent structure, and that obviously is something that has been very problematic, because some days you can't get out there, so. How far is it from Herringbrook to, how far do you have to travel?
Don't know, I would only have to guess, I would say about like a mile,
Okay,
not even.
yeah, I can't even picture where it is.
I know, yeah, just.
No, I think my questions were answered.
Yeah, I won't beat the dead horse, but I live in that area and when I hear a helicopter, it's always a bad thing. The spit is just a really dangerous place. I've been there when it's been as crazy as you possibly imagine, so I won't beat that dead horse. If you can come up with a safety plan with the harbor master and the various other people, you know, it seems like it'd be a fun idea. I know kids would love it. It's like an ice cream truck, but on the water. The only other thing I would be concerned about is any potential environmental damage, trash, what's gonna happen to all that, those cans, those bottles, the wrappers, all that. So I'm hoping that you will be able to assure us that if need be, you will patrol and get rid of any trash. And unfortunately, you'll probably be picking up other people's trash, but I don't wanna have to have us say, well, he picked up his trash, you can pick up someone else's trash. Because it's a very sensitive area. So that's all.
Great. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a terrible location. Like, if you were to say I wanted to do it at Peggy Beach, if you wanted to do it somewhere else, I think it would be much better, but I think it is a very, very bad idea to try to do it at the Strip. People can't even dock boats there, let alone, you know, more an event and have people trying to get out to you, or you trying to get to people to sell things. And I'm not a boater, but I've been out there. It's not good. So I don't think I could support this without being really convinced that you were gonna be somewhere that wasn't gonna be impacted by the tides and that people could actually get to you safely, or you could get to them safely. It's that is the one place in town that I would say that this is a bad place to do it. If you wanted to go down the South River and do it down there where it's much calmer, where you get people from Humrock Beach, I think it'd be, you know, I wouldn't have a problem with it at all. But for your own safety and for the safety of our residents, I do not think this is a good idea or application. So, you know, if you were to get someone that knows boating, I assume you're docking your boat somewhere on James Landing or somewhere, is that where you're?
It's Hydrant River, and I have.
Is that by
connections
James Landing?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so just a little bit further down, okay.
So I think I need to do a little bit more market research on the location of it.
Yeah, that's fine, I think anywhere down there, you get a dock, great, you know, because that's safe there, and even getting out to the spit, you know, through Cole Parkway and out that way is gonna be fine, but once you get out to the spit, it's crazy. I mean, there's 100 boats trying to vie for little spots, and there's anchors and lines going all over the place when the tide spins, and we've had injuries out there.
Okay, that's all.
Yeah, I don't think I can, unless someone that knew a lot about boating said, yes, this is safe, and this, you're gonna be tucked over here, I just don't think it's a good place to do it. And I hate to rain on the parade, but that's my take on it.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
We did receive some comments from the harbor master, and then we saw those that addressed a lot, which would require a lot of the things you're concerned about, you know, in a safe manner, not near anywhere swimming, 150 feet away from swimmers, you know, that kind of thing, but you're right, it's crowded out there. I think in your defense is that this operation will come out before the boats get there, which in a way, you know, the public, I think that the harbor master and the public safety guys could have that conversation to see if they could come construct, it might in some ways be beneficial because it would make a little zone. But I mean, it's above my pay grade.
And we also pretty much only do this on weekends, and most people like to sleep in on weekends. We're working,
How
so
are you
we
gonna
are
deliver,
pretty
how are you
early.
gonna deliver your hot dog? So you're out in the middle of the channel, we've got 400 people and 150 boats on the sandbar. Are they gonna swim out to you to get it, or are you gonna swim into them and give it to them? How is that gonna happen?
Well, we anchor next to the boats, and like where all the other boats are, like we're just another boat if you think about it. We're taking on as much risk as them.
Have you been to the spit?
I've never been, but I know buddies who are veterans of the spit. I've watched, you know, drone videos of it and all that. And we'd be serving to people who are on land essentially.
You know, people move their, and you guys know better than me.
Why don't we recommend him to kind of talk to the waterways, talk to the harbor master, just to get a better feel for the waters here. I just do think our waters are very different than Plymouth Harbor. And I love your idea, I just, again, to everyone's point, Tony's point here, let's have him have some conversations to find out where the safe, appropriate spot
I
would
think
be.
my reaction was the same as Tony's. It'll do a huge business, especially when I saw $5 hot dogs, because you can't get a $5 hot dog anyway. But it's just,
We went up with
it's such tough. I mean, I drive by on 3A and I look out there every week, I'm like, oh my God, it's been something.
Right.
I mean, one incident,
That'll be it.
if you pick another place in the town, then we'll let you do it. But that's
A couple different things you could give them conditional approval, that he brings back an approved safety plan. You could just say, we're in favor of the concept, you need to go work the rest of these details out.
Is there a reason
before
why
you
you
come back
need it
in.
now for next summer? Are you in a time constraint or?
Well, I think there's two things. There's like the approval, like the concept of it, and business aspect of that, and then there's the safety thing. And to me, if it's deemed dangerous as a businessman, I wouldn't even want to do it, and I'm just gonna bring this boat to a different town anyways. So I was just trying to get approval. But I bought the boat and I have other locations I could do it in. But it's definitely great to know that conceptually we're all on board, and if there was another beach I found that happened to be in Scituate, that could bring in that tourism, that revenue, that prosperity, then I think we're all in agreement that that's awesome. But if it's not good for you guys, it's definitely not good for me either, so I think.
Why don't we just hold in, we'll sit them down with Taylor and Steve Bone, see if they come up with a safety plan and come back with.
Well, why don't you take our comments and think about what you wanna do, And if you wanna come back, we can put you in touch with the people that Laura's been talking to, and Jim's been talking to. And look at the rest of the town and see, I mean, we're building a park over at a marina, we're doing a lot of stuff in the harbor area, you know, think about it.
Okay, yeah. Awesome, sounds good,
Okay.
so,
But if
But
you
we
wanna,
support your idea.
okay,
if you wanna meet with those officials, get in touch with my office, we'll set it up.
okay, sounds good, thank you,
Great, thank you for coming
It's
in.
a great idea.
appreciate it.
To the hot dog store,
6 o'clock now,
it's still pretty cheap.
But they're really good.
I'm a big hot dog.
7 for.
More reason I am not, the more the prices go up.
Captain Mike Special, you get 2 for 10.
Jim never eats less than 2.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Is Kevin here?
Yep.
Hey, Kevin.
He's funny.
John, how are you? Good, you doing? Good. So you guys are gonna give us an update on the water reservoir.
Actually, we were trying to turn it into a total water update, if that's okay. We got a bunch of projects and we thought it'd be good to share all our exciting news with you.
As long as one of them's a reservoir, we're good.
One is a reservoir. So, I'll get started. The first one, I can talk about is the Dolan well. We've completed a draft study, including water sampling and pump testing, that have been completed. We had budgeted about $3.2 million for this. The cost estimates are between 5.5 to 10 million to complete this well. Once the treatment plant is location secured, we're gonna work with the engineering firms to determine the best options. There's multiple opportunities for this water and how to take care of it. They did find some PFAS at that location, which can be treated there. But one of the options that they said is maybe you could run this back to your treatment plant and blend the water. So there are a couple options, instead of having the system set up in that neighborhood, or even another option was potentially jacking a pipe underneath the railroad tracks. So we're looking at all that, and we just, the other engineering firm, Woodward & Curran and 91, we're looking at also, and we're looking at going forward with that. In the future, the estimated yield, permitted yield for that well would be about 350,000 gallons per day. So it's a good producing well, and it would be very handy. It's also out of the existing area where we're taking a lot of our water now, so that's a positive.
You said 3.2 million. And then you said 5 to 10.
Pre-COVID, they were talking about 3.2 million. So the estimates now are up to 5 to 10, depending on what treatment option was gone for. Now, some of the increase in those costs are not just because of COVID, because of what they found in the water and what they need to do to treat it. If it was crystal clear water and there wasn't much treatment, it would probably be less, but they're talking something, like a smaller building similar to what we did at Tack Factory Pond Road, set up in that location. And that is tricky because we have a 20-foot easement between houses off Country Way to get in and access that area. That was the original easement that was set up, I think in the 70s when they did it. That's our only access.
So remind me of the location of that well again. It's by the railroad, isn't it?
Yes.
But at what street?
So it's between Country Way. It's kind of behind the DPW gap, but it's in the woods on the Country Way side on the other side of the tracks.
On the country way side of the tracks.
Correct.
Towards North Scituate.
Correct. So it's a completely different aquifer, which is something that, we were very interested in, obviously. Any questions on that, or should I just jump on that?
Yes, I just wondered what the levels of PFAS were that we're talking about. Are we just over limit or?
Just over.
Yeah, I believe we were 24 parts per trillion, when the limit is 20 parts per trillion.
Which is why the dilution, and you sent it back, makes sense?
No, it wasn't, well, they weren't looking to dilute it. One of the suggestions is that they said the treatment that the plant could handle it, but that's something the design engineers would have to take into consideration in the design phase, which we're in right now. So it's something that they're looking at the same time. No problem. One of the other things that we've been working on is emergency treatment. So what we're looking at the vessels that we use. This is for the treatment plant itself, the vessels we used when we had to shut down the plant and run that green sand filter. We were gonna get rid of the vessels, but we actually wound up purchasing them from the company, with Sean's idea. I thought he was crazy, but now we're looking to reuse them again, which is real handy. So what we're looking at is potentially, we've got Woodward Curran working on something that would remove the media, the green sand that's in there now, and put in a different media to try to treat for iron and manganese. So that potentially next year, we could run it through these filtration systems prior to going out into the system and eliminate, or at least try to eliminate as much groundwater as we could from the plant. So that's something that we're working on that, you know.
How big are the vessels?
They're about 30 inches in diameter.
The big eggs, you know, about 6 feet,
7 or 8 feet tall.
8 feet high, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the questions, Tony, is whether or not they handle the volume that will come back from the plant, how we get it through there, whether they can handle all that volume. That's one of the things we're trying to figure out now.
Lest anyone think that this is a cheap solution to the real problem we've got, this would simply be bridging between.
It's just a bridge,
Here.
and it's the only way we could.
Because I don't want anyone of the audience to think that, oh, that's all they have to do is put these.
If it was, we would have
We would have done it.
done it a long time ago,
Just
yeah.
just to clarify.
It's a way of proving that what they're proposing is the new treatment plant is gonna work. We'd be using the same media that they're proposing for the new surface water treatment plant, which is called the manganese contactor. So we'd be essentially taking the media out, like Kevin said, putting the same media in that we're proposing for the new surface water treatment plant and prove that it can remove it. We're just not sure of the flow rates. We may have to run at a slower flow rate.
We've already proven that it will remove it.
We have,
Proven
yes.
it removes it, but no one in Massachusetts has used
But
this.
what we would then do with DEP, we couldn't just say, hey, we're gonna use this, and this is gonna take care of our water problem. We could justify it as a pilot study to handle the water and use it as the water, if that makes sense. So we're just proving the fact and helping ourselves out at the same time. We know the technology works, they've got proof that it works, they've already proved it, but in order for DEP to permit it, we could use it, call it a pilot study.
Any questions on?
Just one,
Yeah.
is the funding for this, the funding that was approved, coming out of the pot that we approved?
Part of that, yeah. The next project that we had were the Humrock Waterline project. We've completed about a 90% design, that came on a while ago, a couple of years ago, or a year ago. We've been working on the design. Unfortunately, since we originally designed the project, there was $6.3 million allocated to do that work. The cost estimate right now is about 9.6. The cost of water pipe has skyrocketed, and there is a shortage of it. So that's where that project is now. What we're thinking of doing, and this is something we'd bring up to the board, is maybe we do half of Humrock and then come back in the future and do the other half. Maybe go out onto a bid like that and do a base bid and then that option bid for the other half. And it's something that we could look at.
This is to replace the water pipes for Marshall's water to go to the houses
Yes,
without the.
without the
iodine.
without the iodine.
Do you have a question?
No, just a comment, you know, I understand why you want to split, but then the cost is just gonna exponentially rise on the second part of it.
Well, I mean, not necessarily, as awful as this is gonna sound, the feds are looking to raise rates again. If the feds raise rates again, then that could slow down construction projects, freeing up capacity. I mean, right now, you can't get pipe. So if we get pipe, perhaps the pipe goes down, then maybe the cost of this project goes down, so. It's really all the supply chain issues that are causing us these things. We can't get pipe, we can't get copper. On our current water projects, we were lucky in that our contractor pre-ordered all kinds of pipe that was still available, stockpile. So.
This is all coming from our water rates, right? You factored in 6.3 million and it's up to 9.6.
So as we look at breaking it up, we're also gonna kind of put on our crystal ball and look ahead and see maybe if we just delay bidding it, we'll get a better bidding environment. If we wait a year, wait 18 months.
So it's an interesting question, and you know, we're gonna watch the market. We watch the market pretty daily. I speak to a lot of different people, probably every other week, and get a feel for where the pipe and where the projects are coming out. Right now, they are coming out higher. You're getting the labor cheaper, but the cost of materials is much more expensive. The other issue now is a lot of the brass. You leave the duct line pipe, and then brass comes off. And we had switched earlier in the year from copper. We allowed the use of plastic also, but you still have a brass fitting that comes off the duct line pipe, and those are in short supply. We spoke to one of the suppliers at the Plymouth County Waterworks meeting, and they said sometimes we have the brass, but we don't have the rubber gaskets inside to put the whole piece together. Other times we've got the gaskets, but we don't have the brass. So those are some of the issues that have been ongoing with water parts and pieces.
Kevin, I know that a lot of those pipes are sieves and we're just paying money to put in the sand. If you were to do it in phases, do you have your diagnostics shown what sections would be the most beneficial for the leaks?
So we do leak detection, probably Sean does it yearly to bi-yearly, and we have ideas. If we hear a big leak, we go after it immediately. I think a lot of our problems down there, and this is my opinion, Sean might have a different opinion, is how the house services are tied in after the meters. So we don't know what's going on with some of the services. So one of the ideas that we had when we went out there, instead of having a meter in the house, is having a meter outside, so that now the residents are responsible for their line going into the house. Because it's pre-meter. So I noticed there were certain areas in town, like when we did Glades, we found some places that were not metered. They were just, years ago, they were tiered off another service and then connected to another service. And all of a sudden you have one service feeding 3 or 4 houses, and then you've only got the one house with one meter, so you're losing a lot of water. And some of the materials we found conduit that was wrapped in black oil. It was probably leaking like a sieve, that we were able to save a lot of that water that we were losing by replacing some of that. So those are some of the ideas we're looking at. We don't have anything finished. I know Sean hates that idea because it's harder to read those meters, and he's probably making faces at me, but I'm pretty adamant. I want them in the roadway so that we aren't losing all that water. If we want to do this, I want to recover the water. Fair enough?
Oh, it is fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
And just, we were talking, we were kind of pushing some numbers around. Over the past 10 years since we've started all this water pipe and repair jobs and everything else that we've been going on, we estimated we're saving 55 million gallons a year in water that we've saved by making these improvements to the pipes. So all that water helps us, obviously when we're in drought conditions, that we're not losing it as bad as we were in the past. And that's a very conservative number. It can be a lot higher than that. So the other project is the Reservoir Dam Project. A conference call was held with Mass DEP to discuss comments received on the environmental impact report. Spillway design was revised to address the comments, was received from the Office of Dam Safety. This is, according to everybody that I'm talking to, one of the oldest dams in the country that was listed on the National Inventory of Dams in 1640. Little fact, next time you're out and somebody's asking you trivia, you can use that. There's a couple legal issues with habitat assessment. The estimated savings of this would be we would gain 28 million gallons per year. And then this is another project that now that we have the location of the treatment plant, we're going to kind of work with our engineers, with Woodward & Curran, and Ty and Bond on this, and look at the intake, because part of the project of that is we were going to be putting in intake. And this could be a good project for both of these to go in and permit at the same time. It might save us money in the long run, because that new intake will go into that other reservoir, so that now we will have 2 intakes, one from top by the rotary and the other one from the other reservoir, and that would improve it. We know that's years off, but it's something that we could work the two hopefully together. And that was one of the things we were looking at.
When did it change or what impacted, we've always been told that this reservoir project would give us an additional 30 days of capacity. And we're updating now says 15, which that's significantly lower.
So, and I'm, what I did, and that could be me, if it's 28 million gallons, I think what they probably used before,
Winter usage.
The map,
it's the map.
Winter usage, they played with the numbers.
The numbers were played with a little bit because they must have assumed, when we do the assumption for usage, we're saying summertime, it's an average usage of 1.8 per day. I think what they did is said, oh, well, all the wells would be up and running, and if we got 800 to 1 million gallons per day, it doubles it out to a longer period of time. Does that make sense?
just as long as we're consistent using the same math formulas we've been. Because that's a much different message. Doesn't make sense, but it's a much different message.
We looked at it as if we lost a lot of our wells, and what the capacity of that, that's how we base our typical capacities on. So, sorry, engineer talk, thing to go.
Well, I think Mark brings up a great point. We should now know that it's number of gallons, 28 million gallons, not a per day, because I just think it's the same exact thing. So it's really only half a month. You know, maybe 20 days, right, in the summer, which is when it goes. Well, that's what they told us, yeah.
And one of the concerns we had, it will impact some of the people in the neighborhood with the reservoir going up.
So how many feet, when we were, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think we only were told it was minimal footage up on shore, like 2, 3 feet, 4 feet. Yeah.
Raising 18 inches.
Yeah,
Raising 18 inches.
So you think it's only gonna go 18 inches on its own?
No, it's up 18 inches, but it varies on the elevation.
That's my
depending on
point,
the
that we were
elevation.
told it would only go a couple of feet on somebody's property.
Well, that's my concern. I think some areas could go 7 feet, other areas could go 2 feet. It's gonna vary significantly, as that goes.
So we're gonna increase the height of it by 18 inches.
18 to 2 feet, somewhere in that area. We haven't pushed this. It's gonna be something we'll bring it up again, but it's something we are looking at.
So what is the next step?
So our next step that we're gonna have is, this is a different engineering firm. We have already had a meeting with that engineering firm, with the engineering firm for the treatment facility. Problem is, we weren't confirmed where the locations were. So we weren't sure that that was gonna be the location, so we couldn't get anything down. So part of what we will do is we'll schedule another meeting with that engineering firm and with Woodward and Curran, and see what we can do to cross connect and bring everything up to speed and look for ideas. Some of the ideas were that we could do both these projects, permit both these projects at the same time, the intake, not the treatment plant, the intake for the new treatment plant, as well as the rising of the reservoir.
Great, so can you get back to us in a couple of months in terms of a timeline?
We'll set up another meeting and we can go forward on that, sure. All set on that?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the other things we've been looking into is we were looking at a new water tank. We had some funding for borrowing for a new water tank. That was 2.7 million. Now that we know where the plant is, we will start moving further on that. We'll get an RFP out and start looking at locations of the new water tank.
Why was the tank dependent upon the location? Is it gonna change from up in West End area?
Well, what we would probably do is we did a study in the past where we ran all the pressures and saw where the flows were going for the water itself to confirm that it was still gonna work and be the most optimal solution. We would run another one of those studies. as well as one of the guys, Mark Cloud, came up with a pretty good idea that we may be able to put it up in a different section of the west end and eliminate our booster pump that we have on 3A, because we've got two systems. We've got a low service system and a high service system in the water system itself. So parts of the west end are on a high service system. So it's almost like two different sections of water. If we can eliminate that pump station by siting a tank at another location, we'd be eliminating the energy costs as well as the maintenance and all the issues with the pump station. Have I murdered that? Have you got something to ask on that one?
Yeah. It would be one tank basically, and then similar to Humrock, we'd have a main with a pressure reducing valve to service the low section, and then it would directly feed the high pressure into the high pressure zone. So it'd be a tank that's taller than our existing tanks, but could feed both zones, the high and the low.
So is it possible, because I know that the capacity of the new tank would be slightly larger than what we have now, but for the current West End plant? So overall, the new tank actually increase capacity in any way?
It would increase fire protection.
It would increase capacity. I think I know where you're going, because when I first started this, I said we could just throw up a third tank. And then everybody looked at me like I was crazy, because your water quality would degrade in the tank, because you only have so many days you're gonna keep the water in.
So the answer was no, it doesn't increase capacity?
Yes, it does, and increases fire protection.
It increases the fire protection, but you don't wanna have an extra 1 million gallon storage, because your water will start degrading in the tanks.
It's also what DEP prefers. They're trying to move away from booster stations because of them being mechanical and can fail, especially if it fails during a fire event. They like the idea of hydraulics. You pump the water into the tank, from there it does all the work for you.
Will the third tank deal with the water pressure issues out in the west end?
So the idea is, that's why we run the study, because it would try to identify areas that are low pressure now, so that we can eliminate some of that stuff.
Okay.
I forgot the exact names. What was the, do you remember the model that they ran?
Hydraulic
Name for it. There's a hydraulic model, but there was a certain name for it, I don't remember exactly.
Because if you don't have good water pressure, it's not a good thing. And I know there have been a lot of complaints out there in west end, so I hope.
Hopefully it wouldn't. What we would probably do is be able to take one tank off, then make repairs, and then probably take out the third tank, so that we just had two again. And we'd be able to bring the other tank up to speed, because there's new guidelines. Remember, there was a father and son team that was cleaning one, and one of them got killed a couple years ago, so there's a lot of new guidelines and safety security around it, so we'll have to update our tanks eventually and become compliant for them.
Yeah.
No problem. Anything else on tank? Okay, skater upgrades. We've been making skater upgrades at the plant. We've added a new computer, we've updated it. Skater upgrades at the old open bucket plant, ongoing contract with Wood and Current to install skater security alarms and upgrade our existing wells, so that the wells are actually talking to the treatment plant. Want to elaborate on that a little more?
No, it's pretty good. Just that it's kind of baby steps right now. We don't have any skater at our wells. We're pretty far behind the times as far as that goes. But we are making strides recently by having this contract with Wood and Current, and they're allowing us to buy anything that's needed separately from the contract. So that extends how much we can use the money with Wood and Current, how much work we can do. And we can sub out electrical work to electricians. So Mark has been spearheading that, my assistant, they've been doing a fantastic job. A lot of work has been happening inside the stations. Nothing is communicated yet, but there's been a lot of work behind the scenes.
Good.
We've been doing well upgrades to 10, 11, 19, 22 electrical upgrades. This is again part of the SCADA project, but some of the PLCs, which are the program logic controllers, are being replaced and repaired, which is good because a lot of the stuff that we have is anything else. So it's a positive thing.
Just real quickly for people in the audience, SCADA, that's a real fancy word for real-time data, so you're getting information and data back, just in case you know what we're talking about.
We talked about it enough in these meetings, that everybody can understand about that. Sorry, my bad. No, you're right. One of the other things we have is we have some money that's been allocated. We're going to start looking for a well somewhere in the west end and look for other sources. Maybe over on the Cohasset side, but we're gonna investigate with water and see what we can come up with in the future. We're drawing to a close on our water main projects, which are 5A and 5B. So far, things have been going really well. We've just got a couple minor things to do on 5B. The contractor, probably in a week or two, is gonna pull out for a little while because he's waiting on parts and pieces, and he'll be back 2 weeks afterwards and hopefully finish that project. These two projects to be complete. One of the really cool things we were able to do is we utilized the contractor up a country way in North Scituate. When we were doing project, I think it was 3C, we ran into some problems with the MBTA. They thought we were getting too close with the equipment to the tracks. So they shut the job down completely and wouldn't let it go until they had time to review the plans. By the time the plans were reviewed, and I don't know if they've ever officially been reviewed, they weren't gonna allow the project to go on. So what we had to do is, there's a water line actually that travels underneath the tracks and it comes out in the sleeve. So we wanted to tie that in as well as tie it into some of the new main work we did so that we created a loop. So the problem we had is all that water went down Mordecai Link and back down and came back into North Scituate. So some of the businesses and some of the residents didn't have, they had fire protection, but we always like to improve. We like to have everything looped. So what we were able to do with the contractor that we had is we went out and did some exploratory test pits, found out what was there. And I will say the MBTA it was actually Keolis was great because they came in here before to do a shutdown for Holland Street and some of the other train intersections when they rebuilt their crossings. And that was a track master when he was here, right? Jumped on and grabbed a card and bugged him and said, we're gonna do this for you, but we're gonna call you back for another favor sometime in the future. So we were able to get, Keolis people out there while we were doing the work as flagmen to tell us when the trains were coming, when they weren't. That's how we prevented the trains from being shut down and they allowed us to work in there. And we have it all completed and that creates a great loop for North Scituate. It's gonna be improving our water quality as well as fire protection. So we're really excited about that because we weren't too sure how we were gonna get underneath the tracks to tie into that sleeve from the pipe out. So I was thrilled with it, Sean.
Yeah.
Kevin, just take care of the phantom fire hydrant and all sorts of work.
So the phantom fire hydrant that everybody's been hearing about for the past 3 years has been replaced. And we have a fire hydrant that's no longer leaking. It's a new hydrant, it's a Mueller Super Centurion dated 2021 and it's painted and it's all ready and it's good.
It works.
And it works and, we're pretty excited about it. And the last thing I had on my list for the update was phase 6 water main replacement. We are about a 90% design, but then again, we are having the same problems with pipes. So we're gonna watch the market and see if we go out to bid, and how that's gonna work. The replacements include Edgar, Bay, Garden, Holly, Irving, Jay, Nola, Longley, Irvine, Jericho. That was what we were hoping to do when we originally designed it, but then again, the costs have escalated so much, we will not be able to do all of that work. We will have to break it out, see how far the funds go.
This is the last phase, right? 6? Isn't it 6 the last, the original?
This is
Well,
water.
there's 8.
This is water or sewer.
No, with the water, we've always said, typically, if you've got 110 miles, we should be replacing at least 2 miles a year, just as an upgrade system. So, I mean, somebody's gonna be here someday saying we're in phase 43 and we're getting ready to go back to phase 1 again and start all over. So hopefully not.
Yes, hopefully not.
So,
Great, well, listen, thank you for the update. Clearly, there's a lot of balls up in the air right now. Keep up the good work, we made great progress last night in getting the water treatment.
Thank you for all the support with the water treatment plant, that was excellent, and thank you everybody that supported it, it's really, really gonna help.
Yeah, you know, it'd be great if you could maybe post this so people can see it on the water website, so people can see all the really big project stuff.
I probably gotta clean it up, because some
Yeah.
it's just my notes and some things that I'm saying, people
Even
can
just
take the
bullet
wrong
points,
way,
yeah.
like,
You've got 12, 13 things that
Yeah.
are major projects. So.
we could probably, I don't mean to dumb it down, but like, I wasn't gonna say that the 28 million gallons and the 1.8 were just from my notes, and I was just reading it, and I just kept reading, so I wasn't gonna bring that up.
Yeah. There's, could you update us on what the EPA's evaluation has been? I've lost the thread of, they've been down once, they're coming again.
DEP's been down, DEP came down to the sanitary survey, but we talking about the water treatment plant. And now EPA is gonna come down to the sanitary survey, hopefully they've been there yet, Sean, and then
Thursday this week.
Thursday. So, looking down, look at our plant, and find the same thing DEP does, the men and women down there do a fantastic job with a real challenging piece of equipment.
So people had called EPA, and I believe, and they called DEP, and, you know, DEP called and said, would you mind if we come down and inspect the plant? You know, of course, they come down anyways to the sanitary surveys. And, you know, Sean and I said, sure, we're, you know, we have no problems, come on down, take a look. And they called back, about 2 weeks ago, and said, you know, you guys mind if we bring the EPA down and take a look too? And we said, well, no problems with it, it's not tonight.
So that's this week.
This week.
Okay, thank you.
That's the thing correctly, right?
Great, thanks,
Thank you very
guys.
much.
Thank you, thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean. The next topic for discussion is the Glades Road Waterline, and that has been postponed until the next meeting. So we are gonna skip over to the next topic, a discussion will go to commissions on disability to update their charge and to add a student intern. Athena Brodsky is gonna join us remotely. Athena, are you there? Hi Athena, how are you?
Fine, I have to ask to unmute.
We can see you.
We can
and
hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yes, and see you.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Don't do
I'm sorry about that. I can't, I see Seth's words down there.
Yeah,
Hi there. Thank
Hi,
you
how
for
are you?
having me. Now, I believe that Lorraine gave you the charge that we prepared to have you adopt that. There isn't a charge for the Disabilities Commission. So we had decided we wanted to bring on a student as a volunteer with us to get community service hours. So if you have the charge that
yeah, we do have it.
then have you had a chance to read it?
Yes, we have.
Okay, so I'm asking you to adopt this. We worked with the high school administration, Michelle Bober, the special education director, Tammy Rundell from the guidance department, and Best Buddies. And so we would like to allow a student from the high school to be identified by the high school administration to be a member of the Disabilities Commission on Disabilities during the school year. So it'd be from September, October until May or June, and receive community service hours. They wouldn't have voting rights, but we'd ask them to come to our Zoom meetings and maybe to do some research for us if there's something they may be interested in. And of course, we would value and listen to their opinions. And we also, hopefully, they'll be able to come to our disability accessibility awareness event in October 22nd. Put that on your list from 10 to 1 at the high school. we'll be having about 25 different service providers who service persons with disabilities at the high school to highlight what it is that we do and what's available for those with disabilities. So we're hoping that we could have a student to help us do things there and get community service. So.
Great. Well, you've done a great job summarizing this. I don't even think I have to. I personally think it's a spectacular idea. I see the nodding heads, I think everybody does. It's my understanding that you would collaborate with the school to really coordinate all of the administrative side of this and selection and tracking of all the hours and all that sort of stuff. Is that correct?
Yes, the school would decide upon the student to participate.
Right, and I think it's just a great perspective of, you know, somebody else's view on the needs of, you know, that the town can help provide, so I think it's great.
It'll be great. I think it'll be wonderful for them.
Anyone on the board have anything to add? Andrew?
I mean, the work that Best Buddies does and with the students and their involvement and improvements and things we're talking even about some great work at the playground at Wampatuck and other things. It's a fabulous perspective. I think it's a great charge. You know, a comment, it just says here it's a group of volunteers. I wish we could add in some of the most dedicated and wonderful, because I love the Commission of Disabilities that do great work, so I think this is a great addition.
Thank you.
Great. I see nodding. I think you get 3 more people to say the same thing, so we'll cut it short. And while we have what I believe is the yes vote, we'll take a motion unless there's any questions from the audience. We got a full house now. Great, seeing none. Motion.
Move to accept the Commission on Disabilities charge and the addition of a student intern.
Second.
Second by Ms. Canfield. Further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous. Thanks for bringing this to us, Athena. Great idea.
Thank you.
We'll
See you on
soon.
October 22nd.
Yep.
Putting it in the news.
Thank
Thank you. Good night.
It really is a great event, Very.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I
Yes.
just want to let you know that you have probably 2 rooms full of people on the holiday.
Oh, good.
So I'm not sure how you want to manage the next few topics.
Okay. We will figure it out.
We'll go down, I told them I would go down and let them know which topic was coming up. The 2 topics I believe were in Cedar Point.
Right. So let's go with the,
We have the vote.
first we've got the both works agreement, so we'll do that one first.
I thought this is what everybody was here for.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
Good, I'm Brian Ferry, Scituate.
How are you, Brian?
Good, very good.
Good, so we're gonna, tell us what.
So, from time to time, you know, when we apply for loans or, you know, to expand or whatnot, we are asked for collateral. One of the things, the biggest thing we have for collateral in our equipment is the lease. So, we've applied for a loan, part of that loan, part of that has been, you know, and the stop agreement has been put in place, and I presented that to you this evening. If you could grant that. We do have one already in place for another loan, so it's nothing new. That's where we are.
Wait, Nancy or Jim, anything to explain on this, or you?
It's just standard paperwork. You have done in the past.
I had it reviewed by town council as
Oh, you
well,
did? Oh, great.
so it's all set.
Any questions from the board? What expansion are you doing?
We're looking to purchase another business, Enhancements.
That's, what town is that in?
That's in Wayne.
Great. Any questions? All right, if not, can I have a motion?
I move that the select board execute the request for 3rd assignment of lease and assignment relating to Scituate Boat Works in Montague Marine, a copy of which is attached to our record.
Second by Ms. Conley. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous.
Thanks,
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thanks. Okay, the next topic is Glades Road parking. So, as Ms. Stebbins just mentioned, a lot of people are here for this, and a lot of people are here for the Cedar Point betterment. So what I'm gonna ask is, if you're here for Cedar Point betterment, if you can go out in the hall and let people that are here for Glades Road come in, that would be good. Did you get any, who's here for Glades Road? Great. Can you, Maureen, can we see how many Glade Road people are out there?
I would say there's about 20.
All right, so let's open the doors and let them in.
Okay.
And if you're here for Cedar Point, if you don't mind going out in the hallway until this is done, then we'll invite all of you guys back. And there's some seats up here. You know, maybe we can move, so if you would just open that back door.
Take these extra seats.
Yeah.
You guys have the patience of saying.
Not to be fine.
If we can move that table.
Can you grab you while you're at it?
So there's a few seats up front, if you'd like to sit up here.
Later. That's not what you guys did. There you go.
If you could leave that door open, that'd be great. If you could open that one, it'll get really hot in here quick.
Sure.
Okay, thank you guys for coming in. So our discussion right now is on the Glades Road parking. This came about because we just fixed all of the, or in the process of fixing the 4 stairwells that go down to the beach there. And there was some discussion on the board in terms of how can we make this available for more people? And an idea was brought up, maybe we put some parking on in that area so that more people can get there and enjoy it. And that's basically what our discussion is tonight. There's been no decision. This is a very 10,000-foot conversation right now. We haven't discussed it as a board yet, so we'll kind of bat it around, take some thoughts from you, and then see what the next step is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to start us off here?
Sure, I would like to say, I was the one who brought it up when we were voting to approve spending $400,000 of town money to fix the stairs at Maya. It's a lot of money, we're doing it under special emergency permit, and therefore there was some reason to move it along. I was not in favor of it because it will not improve access for anyone with a disability. It will not improve access for almost anyone else in town unless you live in the neighborhood. Because as it stands now, there's nowhere to park other than the parking lot, which is down, at the other end of Bailey's Causeway. So my thought was if we could have seasonal beach parking, say from May 15th till September 15th during daylight hours, that it might expand access to the beach, make those stairs more accessible to more people, take some of the parking that is currently not handicap parking at either end, and make more handicap parking available. Having said all that, we have a process we have to go through. And Karen Canfield called me today, we didn't talk, but I understand the gist of what she had to say. We have 2 ways we could go. We could refer this to the Beach Commission, and perhaps that's the best venue to start with, because they would have to look at other beaches as well. I think it's only fair to think that we should have as much beach access for people in town who have beach stickers. And we know that there are places in town, for example, every so often someone brings up the Spit. Well, the truth is about the Spit, there's nowhere in that neighborhood for anyone to park, even including the residents. But Glades Road itself is a fairly good-sized road. Whether or not, I'm sorry, Leslie, if you would mind, I've lived in town for
Sorry.
50 some odd
Sorry.
years. Well, okay,
Please just
I'm just,
save your comments till later.
at any rate, but that would be for traffic rules and regulations to look at. I'm not an engineer. I don't know if it's possible to put any parking up there or not. I don't know what the issues are related to emergency vehicles, et cetera. I got a fairly lengthy email yesterday from someone who I talked with today. As I say, this is the beginning of a process. And to be fair, Karen thinks that we should refer this to the beach commission first. I'm kind of neutral on the issue. I think we need to refer it to one of the commissions, whether it's traffic rules and regs, or whether it's the beach commission, to evaluate this particular idea. And all I can say is, they're the experts, they're the engineers. And I don't wanna put anyone in danger, and I understand how people feel about Glades Road being the way it is. But again, if we're spending $400,000, I thought it only fair to consider how we can expand access to the rest of the beach sticker holders in town. So that's my little,
Karen, let me say this,
Yeah.
you don't have to justify yourself.
I'm not trying to justify, but
No, but I think this is the sort of stuff that we have to talk about, and we have to see what's going on. I think before we wanna talk about putting it somewhere else, we've gotta see if the five of us have the appetite to do that or not, which is what we're having this discussion for.
Right.
But that's good thinking, okay? Where can we put parking so people can enjoy things more? Whether it should go there or go somewhere else, we'll figure that out and ultimately come to other committees and residents to see what's going on.
Well,
But
and to
this
be
is all
fair,
good discussion.
the discussion that we're having tonight is whether or not this board is gonna vote to refer to any other commission.
Exactly.
This board may decide not to. So that's what we're here.
So, there's a few seats up here if you wanna sit down, and Mike, if you can open that door, that'd be great, because it's getting warm. Thank you. All right, so, that being said, who wants to start kind of the discussion about, and I assume you're talking about putting it along the street, probably the beach side of the street.
Again, I think
Yeah.
if we
If it
refer
was
to
safe,
traffic,
right.
right.
Anyone want to take the discussion from there?
Sure, my position, it's pretty simple, for me, traffic rules and regulations should actually really be the starting point for whether or not it's safe, it's not safe, and I don't know, and I can't believe how wrong I've been about some of the areas that I would have thought were really unsafe that worked. Booth Hill and 3A is not as safe, is safer than some of the other intersections, and I think I'm taking my life in my hands. And to make any of these decisions, to me, I think it's almost irresponsible not to investigate and have the professionals say, hey, this could be the best idea in the world, we could save 20 lives, or this is the worst idea ever and everyone's gonna get hit. I don't know. But I want those professionals, those folks, and to be honest, I'm not trying to justify myself, but I've been a part of this for me is I wish traffic rules and regs would get more involved in more issues and meet more, and I want them to start looking at all these different options everywhere. And I still want the crosswalk in Hatherley, and there's so many other places that I want them to investigate and tell me this is gonna be safe, this isn't safe. So for me, this could be the best idea or the worst idea, I don't know, but I want them to come back to us and say, hey, board, let me tell you, this is amazing or this is terrible, let me tell you why. Because we have to investigate all these different options and have the pros tell us first. That's where my head is.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I respect the premise to provide additional accessibility. I think there's another parking lot down there that we should take a look at as well that probably hasn't been properly graded or monitored, and I know it's an overflow and whatnot. I agree with the statement. I don't think it belongs to the beach commission. First of all, 'cause I do think it's more about traffic and safety. I think it also opens up Pandora's box for all of our beaches where we have a lot of traffic on the roads. I would defer it to traffic rules as well, like the police chief and fire and, all those reasons that you just mentioned. I personally would not like to see parking there. I think it's more than just the road, there's no guardrail there that we tried to get past a couple of years ago that got squashed and failed. We could use a guardrail, so I could see it also being extremely expensive. Still think we need a guardrail there regardless of parking moving forward, but I think by putting that there as well, it'll hamper the area to potentially safely park. But I'm happy to engage traffic rules and get their evaluation as well, if this is something that the board wants to, at least evaluate.
Yeah, I just want to clarify a couple of things. I had a little bit of a different take on this. As a almost 30-year resident, and I know you've lived here your whole life, 30 years in this neighborhood, and a former member of the traffic rules and regs, I think, Andrew, you're absolutely right. They are really an underutilized resource, because sitting on that committee, somebody comes in and says, oh, we need stop signs here all around. They know between the police and the engineers what works. I've never been supportive, Mr. Conway knows, I'm not supportive of this proposal. I think that it's, for a host of reasons, I think it would be a very bad idea to put parking in Glades. And we've received a lot of letters. I don't have to go in, we've all read the letters. I think they're very articulate, so whoever wrote them, thank you, because it summarized things well. What I said in our phone call, which we didn't have a chance to actually have a conversation, I left a message. What I thought is, I know the Beach Commission is working on a number of things to make sure we enhance all of the use of our recreational beaches. And that is a plan that is supposed to look at everything, including how do we have an opportunity to expand parking? Do we have an opportunity to have more egress points? They proposed doing access to another beach that was environmentally sensitive, it wasn't gonna work. So I think it is in their charge to look at all the beaches and say, should we be thinking about paving, if we were allowed to, a secondary lot? Is that the best way to get people there? Should we make Glades one way and make it, and that would definitely be traffic rules, make it one way, make a bike path, I don't know. But I was thinking starting with Beach Commission, because they've done this homework already about all of the assets that are our beaches. And it's not just about Glades. And if they think it fits into sort of a master plan of how to improve access, then they could recommend things that the engineers could look at. So I just want to clarify that. That's where my thinking was on that. I would not support referring Glades parking to traffic rules and regs, because I don't think it merits review by that personally.
Okay. I don't want to put parking there. I don't think it's a good idea. It's a beautiful view there, and to block it with a bunch of cars, I think is the wrong thing to do. And I think that it would open up safety concerns for people walking across that street. I just don't like it, and I think I would have put parking somewhere else before I put it on that street. So my opinion is that I don't think we need to go to traffic rules and regulations. I don't like the idea from the get-go. So, we'll have to kind of take the vote there. I understand the need for parking, but I don't want to block the view to the ocean to get parking there, and it's nominal parking. It's not, it's just not that big. And I don't like the cost benefit. To me is more of a cost than a benefit. So from my opinion, I would say I would vote against even pursuing it. And but if you want to pursue it, I think it definitely is a traffic and rules thing, because I'm more concerned about the safety aspect of it. If you guys don't agree with the aesthetic aspect of it, which is what I don't like about it. So that being said, yeah, that would be my opinion. I don't like the idea, and I'm not in favor of going to the next step to look to see if we can do anything else with it.
Sure.
Yeah.
People might be open to referring the issue to the traffic rules and regulations and look at safety issues for large of Glades Road area, because again, I am so amazed how wrong so there could be, they might be able to look at that again. Part of me, to be quite honest, I want to force them to start looking at some areas, and for us as a board to start directing, to say, hey, I really want to take a second look at this area. And maybe there's a safety concern, and maybe they need an extra sidewalk or a speed bump, or maybe needs to go one way all the, I don't know, like, I'm not a professional on that. But if there's something to improve safety, I want them to take a double, because we are not just spending money there, and there probably will be more folks being there, maybe a bike path or something else is there.
Well, that's a different issue though, than parking.
Yeah.
To me,
Right.
like, I don't disagree with your direction, but I think we're talking about two things.
Well, I guess I wanna just refer Glades Road to traffic rules and regulation to look for safety issues writ large. And if they come back and say, hey, it's more safe to have parking there. I could be totally wrong. My gut says no, I just want them to be able to take a look. And I mean, I'll open up.
No, I agree with you, but I think Maura's right. I think we've got to decide whether we want them to look at it safety as is or safety by putting parking spots there. And if we don't want to put parking spots there, then they don't have to look at it from that perspective. If you're talking speed bumps and bike paths, that's a whole different thing. I don't want to put parking there. So if the board wants to put parking there, though, my opinion is let's put it to that committee.
I guess I wouldn't wanna limit them if they say parking would make it safer. I don't think they're gonna say that, but
We would
I
look
want-
at that, they can come back to that.
They could,
I wanna make sure.
even if they say it's safer, I don't want 25 cars blocking the ocean. From my perspective, that's not what I want to happen in that area.
No,
So-
I agree, I mean, I'm not in favor of putting parking there either, at all. I'd rather look at that back lot, honestly, and keep it pretty wide.
I mean, more people drive down that street to look at the ocean,
Yeah, the view than anything.
right? And if all of a sudden there's cars blocking it, it's just gonna distract attention and you're gonna miss people walking, in my opinion, it's gonna be more dangerous, so I guess let's just take let's see if it is the opinion of the board to pursue the parking aspect. If there's not, then let's at another time talk about traffic rules and regulation. Am I pushing this too fast, or is that?
No, I think we're here to talk about the parking. There has not been an identified safety issue. So to refer it, just look at safety writ large on that road without a identified problem right now is premature. We need to talk about more of the other. I mean, if the direct, I think it's a different issue, and I think that makes sense.
Don't want to step on toes, does that sound,
I guess what I'd like to say is, I'm hearing that 3 members of this board, no matter what, will not vote for parking on Glades Road. So, to sum it up, I think it's a waste of time for us to refer it to parking rules and traffic rules, or to the beach commission. I do think the beach commission is the right place to look at how can we provide more access. This would not have come up had it not been the $400,000 that appeared out of nowhere to fix those stairs. So I felt as though there was something missing, that they hadn't looked at the whole picture. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
So I feel as though
Well, that's what the vote will decide.
right.
So let's just have a vote whether we want to proceed with this parking project. And if 3 of us feel that way, then we don't. If 2 of us do, then we can rediscuss what the next steps would be if people aren't. Does that make sense?
I mean, I am agnostic parking there, I want data before I say it's a good idea or a bad idea. I mean, my gut says it's probably not, but I could be wrong without any
trust your
data.
We could put that as another topic, if you want to.
If you tell me, if you're, Mr. Chair, if you tell me we can come back and start making sure that we're looking at, we can direct traffic rules for.
Yeah, we can always do that, but not as it relates to like, if you don't want parking there, then we don't want someone to look and see if it's safe to put parking. Is my point.
Yeah, I guess it's, okay.
Right, and just to piggyback on what Tony said, that traffic rules and regs would be great for the engineering portion, safety portion, all of those things, which of course that's the expert. But Tony's point about just the aesthetics, they're not gonna opine on that.
So I think that makes sense for us to decide whether they should look at the engineering piece.
Safety or aesthetics, like to me, I just always come back, I don't want any resident to be hurt.
So two separate issues, I can jump in. If you drive down there now, you'll have to get an idea of what it would be like if you allowed parking, because the contractor's parking there now, so you can get an idea of the width of the street, things like that. Tony's point is, or Karen's point, if the position of the board is, we don't want people parking there, then there's no point in having the traffic rules committee go through all the work to say, it's safe or it's not safe, because it's gonna come back in and gonna say, we don't care, we don't want parking there, so don't bother. On the other hand, though, you could just say to the traffic study, we want you to look at ways that maybe we can improve pedestrian and bicycle access in that area. More, fix a sidewalk, put bike path, put bike racks, put bike lane, separate from the parking issue, because it's really, I hate to put it, it's a waste of their time if we're just gonna say no.
I think that's where we are. So, Ann,
Yeah.
are you
If we
comfortable with
I'm
that?
comfortable with that, if, yeah, we can make
So
sure we
we
can.
can say no to the parking and then take a separate vote to direct the traffic rules committee to look at ways we can improve pedestrian and maybe bicycle access in that area from a safety and aesthetics point of view. How's that?
Any other comments from the board? All right, I'm gonna open it up to you guys, but just be brief if you see what's gonna happen probably in the next 10 seconds. If it doesn't happen, then you guys can talk all you want after that. So there's one person raising their hand. Just give us your name and address.
My name is Peter Gerard, I live at number 4 Gannett Road, which could also be known as a front seat, the greatest show on earth. And I'm serious about that. It's beautiful, no question about it, but I'm gonna address the safety issues. I'm not bragging, all right, this is just my creds, my credentials. I'm a retired fire chief, spent 29 years on the job, and saw a bunch of stuff. I'm not from Scituate, I'm from another community that had even more crazy incidents. And what I see on a daily basis is nuts. Okay, we've got cars coming down the one-way street frequently. If not, bicycles going at full speed, kids on skateboards going at full speed. So there's a lot of unusual visual things going on. And the courses that I've taken, emergency driving, that's the key to accidents, because you see something that your brain cannot understand, you can't react to it. Now, on any single day, or on any day actually, at the beach, you can see horses, powerboats, people water skiing, paddleboarding, kite skiing. I'm probably leaving a bunch of stuff out. And it's crazy. Oh, fishermen on the beach while people are swimming. There's very many distractions already. And I think it would be a big liability mistake for the town at this point to do something like this. You're gonna change the traffic flow. If they're gonna park on Glades Road on the beach side, you're changing the paddock traffic already. Okay, so because you're gonna have either going in the opposite direction or driving on the wrong side of the street where people are already violating the traffic principles. And there's just too many distractions there. And I hold my breath on a lot of summer days when I see kids running out in the street. There's some crazy obsession now with kids going like this all the time, trying to get the people to blow their horns. It's a big distraction for the driver, big distraction. People slamming on the brakes. I've seen all kinds of things. In a winter storm, there was a guy that just kept going and he ran into the white wall.
Sorry.
You know, it didn't make any sense to his brain. And those are the types of things that I think you really need to consider. But I do have one constructive idea, and that would be, and I like the idea about bicycle paths and improving them, but also would the board consider investigating the cost of an electric shuttle bus that could go from various parking places through town to bring people? Because I like people going to the beach. It's the best way to keep things in good condition is to use them. And that's, and have the support of the people, of the community. So you can justify it, you can spend that money. So I'll stop there, I think I needed enough time, thank you.
All right, seeing no other hands,
Can I just add, I live at 61 Williams Road in East Larry. I would just say that I see numerous people coming down because my Peloton's right on facing the water. People coming down and holding their phone up. And they're not even really looking at the road and they're taking pictures and things like that. And I just think it's a huge safety issue. And I would suggest that maybe we add speed bumps to that road because people fly up and down that road. Thank you.
okay, so maybe next meeting we'll have some
Safety, I mean, yeah.
Andrew
Okay.
feels very.
All right, we got a lot going. So, can I have a motion to, not pursue, do we even need a motion? No.
Not unless you want one.
No, so, well, I'm not sure how everyone feels, so let's do a vote. Can I have a motion not to pursue the parking on Blaze Road at this point in time?
I move that this board not consider adding parking on Blades Road.
Second by Ms. Curran. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
That's 4-1, Lorraine. In favor of not pursuing parking on Blades Road. Great. Thank you.
You guys don't want to stay?
Good to see you.
Every other Tuesday, love to see you.
Okay, do you want me to bring the seat point and then down?
I think we have one other thing. We have one thing. Yes, though.
Just work on one.
Okay. Thank you, Lorraine, for doing that. Our next topic for this evening is a discussion vote on the MBTA unallotted historical resource funds in the amount of $5,333.29 for repairs to the Cudworth House. Jim?
Yeah, I'll be very brief on this. During COVID, the Cudworth House was closed up. There wasn't anybody in there at that time. A family of skunks decided to live underneath it. The odor and the infestation has caused some significant damage to the Cudworth House. Wallpaper has to be taken down, walls have to be removed. They brought this to our attention before we could add, too late to add to the town meeting warrant to get funds. So when we did the MBTA project, there were historic funds as part of that mitigation. There's $55,333.29 still in that MBTA historic fund. So we are asking that money be released for the Historic Society It'll be added to $3,000 that was released by this board actually years ago and wasn't spent, and a $22,320 reserve fund transfer. So probably all in total about $32,000 to make repairs to cut without space upon the infestation. We checked with our insurance company, not covered.
Can you just go over what repairs you have to do?
Wallpaper, the walls have to be taken down.
Because of the snow?
It all got up inside the walls, get inside the wallpaper, the floorboards have to be taken out, there have to be some repairs to the
Sanitary and electrical repairs.
sanitary electrical repairs from Nori and some repairs to the foundation.
Don't let us skunk in here.
Any questions from the board? Seems like a lot of money for skunk damage.
Would you like to add?
Well, it's all historic, we just can't hire any contractors, it's all historic, so
It's historic, so they have special
special
contracts,
preservatives that have to
special
come in to
people
preserve
who
the
know what
wallpaper that they're gonna take down.
So we'll get quotes soon.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Any questions for Jim? Any questions from the audience?
When will you start, Jim, if we approve?
As soon as we can. Not good, it's less than 50,000, so we get 3 quotes as opposed to going out to bid. But it's specialized work, I'm not sure we even have a whole lot of contractors that would be qualified to do it.
Get that new guy that does all the, it's covered, considered a farmhouse.
Oh,
John Knight, yeah.
There you go.
Get one of the new kids on the block to come do it for us.
Who's that?
Michelle wanting.
Must be a good show. Would you like a motion?
Yes, and again, this is just for the $5,000 from the
Right.
MBTA funds.
Move to release the remaining unallocated MBTA historical resource funds amounting to $5,333.29 to be used in conjunction with the reserve fund transfer for remediation of a skunk infestation and general minor sanitary and safety repairs at the Tudworth House.
Second.
Second by Ms. Conley, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous. The next topic of discussion is Cedar Point Betterment Assessment. Jim and Nancy, you guys want to go over that? You gave us this pink piece of paper.
I wanted to match Jim's outfit.
So,
Oh, sorry.
do you want to give us, what are we talking about? I know you've got some numbers on what the betterment's going to be.
Yep.
Do you want me to, I know that there's some residents here who have concerns on some of the items that were included in there. Where do you want to start the discussion?
Really up to you, Cedar Point project back in 2020. Actually pre-COVID, you were meeting on this. We approved funding the July town meeting for the project with the gravity system as opposed to the pump system. So the town originally had $2.5 million to do the system. We got a $2.2 million grant from the state, so we had $4.7 million. The pump system came in at $3.3 million. At that point, the residents came in and expressed their concern, they did not want a pump system. They wanted to go back to a gravity system, which was significantly more expensive. The board, however, agreed that they would put up the $4.7 million that the town had available. Anything beyond that would be put on a betterment. The original estimates for the betterment at the March 10th, 2020 town meeting, select board advisory board meeting, the original estimate for the betterment was in the neighborhood of $42,000 per household. Before town meeting, we went to bid, the new bid came in, the estimate at that point was about $25,000 per household based on the bid. At this point, the betterment before you is $18,745.70 per household, or half household, I believe there's 2 accessory dwellings that each a half. The residents, and they can speak for themselves, but there are several items that they do not believe should be included. If I miss any, let me know. The parking lot at the lighthouse, which was part of the original project, has always been part of the project, was fully paved. Some drainage work, which was done, and the park at the end of Jericho, and I think it's Turner, that was refurbished as part of the project. So, anything else am I missing, Dave?
we'll give them a chance to talk.
I just wanna make sure I get the ones that they're objecting to.
Those are the major, I mean, we've seen the letters, we've looked at, so just to get the numbers right. We estimated the betterment would be $42,000 a house.
Correct.
The bid came in a lot lower, we thought it was gonna be $25,000 per house. And after the project was done, the betterment was $18,000 per house.
Correct, 18,000 change, right.
Any questions before we open up to the citizen Jess?
Just so the items that you just mentioned, I'm just looking at the breakout in our back, what's the total that is of concern that's additional? I can't do that.
I'd have to go back and do the math, it's.
So it's the drainage phase 1 and 2,
Yeah, the parking lot, there's not a number for the parking lot, so we didn't break that out because that was part of the original project.
okay,
And then the traffic count.
okay, alright, thank you. It's in all in the change orders though, except for the parking lot?
Except for the parking lot, correct.
Okay.
All right, do you want to hear from the citizens, then we can discuss it? David Ball's the President Association, he asked if we would let him give his summary first and then go from there.
Thank you, Tony. I felt that if I started off and then Michelle will follow me, then there'd be some possible questions or comments from the neighborhood. The neighborhood has always been very respectful of the board, and I know that they will be that way again tonight. Before getting into the betterment issue, I again want to thank the board for voting for the gravity sewer. We went through a whole lot of meetings with you guys. Most of them were at the safety building up on Route 3A. And it was kind of touch and go for us for a while. It looked like it was gonna end up being the pressure system that was gonna be put in. We objected to that vehemently, and at the end of the whole thing, as you know, I think the vote was 3-2 in favor of gravity sewer, which is the same kind of sewer we had installed out there in 1972. And by the way, in 1972, of course, we also had to pay a betterment. But anyway, Michelle's gonna get into that part of it. So we appreciate the vote in support of the gravity sewer. For the betterment comments that I have, and they're brief, we were not aware of tonight's meeting until late last Thursday afternoon. And that's because, of course, the agenda hadn't been set. So I'm not placing any blame, I'm just making that as a comment. But that has not given us much time to notify the neighborhood or prepare for this meeting. But I think we've done a pretty good job of putting things together. I can say, however, that the property owners on the point are very concerned, especially about 4 items in the betterment. And we've found that it's been difficult over the past year to get information from the town relating to the betterment cost. And again, part of that is very understandable because it was an ongoing project. But there is that concern. I do want to commend, however, Nancy Holt, and by the way, for my neighborhood, Nancy Holt is sitting right there. I want to commend Nancy Holt for always being very responsive to our inquiries. Whenever I had a question, I would usually either call Nancy directly or a lot of times email her. She was always very responsive. Lorraine Devon, who is right there, she's the secretary to the select board, and Michelle Segezi is also, both of those women have also been very helpful to us, and we appreciate that. So those are my comments for now, at least. Michelle will continue on and get specific about the concerns about some of the items in the betterment.
Michelle, can you just give your name and address, please?
Sure, Michelle Loring, 67 Rebecca Road.
Thanks.
I'm gonna back up a bit to 2017. In April 26, a warrant article, capital improvements, item FF. And what it said, and this is a quote, infiltration inflow, Cedar Point sewer, 2.5 million. This is what was voted by the town meeting. 2.5 million to control inflow and infiltration to the Cedar Point sewer, period. After much contention, after this was passed, we found out sometime later that what this was supposed to be was for pressure pumps. After we learned about this, there was much investigation and contention between the town, as you know, the town, meaning the town administrator and the Department of Public Works and the residents about pressure pumps versus gravity sewer, which is what we had. You voted, and we thank you again for voting for the sewer that we have now, and it's a great sewer. After the vote, however,
Sorry.
it's a great sewer, we love our sewer, okay? After the vote, and people were exiting the hearing room, a town employee said, "You people will pay for this." And a select person heard this comment by a member of the Department of Public Works and said, "You shouldn't talk to people like that." Well, when they said, "You people will pay for it," what then happened is what we have before you now.
Michelle, can I ask you,
2020, yes,
please, let's just talk about the facts of the things that you're disputing and not
right.
get into the.
In 2020, on the warrant, the town meeting voted again to assess us, and nobody opposed it, the construction costs of a sewer pipe replacement. That's what we're supposed to be assessed for, construction of a sewer pipe replacement. The town administrator and DPW, after the sewer work was substantially completed in May of 2021, started having the contractor perform work not related, we contend, to either construction of the sewer pipe replacement, for which the betterment was authorized, nor related to reducing I&I from the sewer, which was what the 2.5 million was to be for. The stormwater drain improvement was a change order, a number of change orders. That resulted in an additional cost of $74,000 plus. And the exact figure is in a letter that we sent to you back in March. Or April. The $74,000 was for the north end of the pipe, and it installed 3 catch basins with drain pipes and an outfall into the harbor. This was solely for stormwater collection. Stormwater, by definition, is not part of the sewer system. It's not part of the I&I, it's a totally separate system. And that's included in this figure that the town administrator has before you. The next item is installation of granite curbing. There was never any granite curbing up at the triangle as you enter the point. It was concrete, and the contract clearly called, the original contract, to fix the concrete. Instead of that, a change order was implemented, signed by the town administrator, increasing the cost of the project by $24,000 for granite curbing. The largest item by far, and the last item that I'm going to address, is the paving and line painting at the parking lot. The cost of this, we estimate at over $130,000. The sewer work included replacement of the lateral, one line from the end of Lighthouse Road to the lighthouse, 170 feet long. The entire parking lot of the lighthouse was paved and lines repainted. In other sewer projects, the total amount of asphalt is 3.5 inches on top of the patch. In this case, for this parking lot, it was ground down to 17.5 inches, which is what was done on all of our roads. And the cost of that is included in this project. The contract specified waterborne traffic paint. Instead of that, the town used thermoplastic paint at a considerably more expense. Now, the first sentence of the Department of Revenue has an advisory booklet that it sends out to cities and towns regarding assessment of betterments. And in the very first sentence of this booklet, a betterment or special assessment is a special property tax that's permitted where real property receives a special benefit, other than the general advantage to the community. In this case, the lighthouse and the parking lot is owned by the town. On average, 1,200 vehicles go around the point every day. We have 100 houses on the point. They don't use the roads 1,200 times a day. By law, this town is not going to partake in this assessment. That's the law. The town is not going to get assessed. So what you're asking is for the 100+ homes on the point that have no special benefit from this parking lot and from hooking up the lighthouse to pay totally for the cost of that expense. Why should the point residents and the point residents only, not the town at large, pay for all of the work that was done at the lighthouse? The work at the lighthouse is for the general advantage of the town, not the residents. It's not an appropriate expense for a betterment. And we hope that the town will not include these costs, which total approximately $229,000.
Any other comments? Put it back up to the board. Jim, you want to talk about the paving of the parking lot?
Sure, why don't I try to take them in the order that she brought them up?
Stormwater.
First of all, the stormwater is absolutely connected to I&I. There's no question. This is a gravity system, it is susceptible to I&I, where a pressure system is not. Okay, we have to drain those roads, or eventually that water is going to get into the source system. So there's no question that the stormwater system absolutely connected to I&I.
And was that, can you say the value of them, Jim, as you go through,
That
was
was
that the
74.
74?
Yep.
74.
Okay, that's it,
Nancy has.
okay.
Okay, the traffic island was in poor condition when we started. Because we did a gravity system, if the board recalls, we had to put a dewatering system in. That dewatering system was placed on that island. When it was done, that island was in a deplorable condition, and we had to replace it. The decision was made to use granite curbing because it lasts longer. You saw what happened to the concrete curbing that was out there. It gets beat up, it gets torn up. So the island was, in effect, damaged and destroyed by this project. It was replaced as part of the project. The parking lot, we put the line in, it was used as a laydown area, we had the trucks out there. Parking lot had to be replaced as part of the project. Thermoplastic, we use that everywhere now. And to say the town didn't pay for this, the town put forth an extra $1.4 million that wouldn't have been spent if we had done a pressure system. So the town, the ratepayers of the town kicked in an additional $1.4 million for this project. So the town has its skin in the game too, but those items are all related to this project, all part of this project. I don't have the number for the paving, we didn't break that out, it wasn't broken out. The island and the drainage would reduce the betterment by about $800. So the parking doubles that, so say $1,600 would be the reduction of the betterment if you.
Over the life of the
Over the life of the betterment. Oh, no, per year.
Oh, boy.
Over the life, sorry.
Any comments from the board? Right, I will start. Well, so I understand your concern about coming before us for the, and looking at these things and saying these things shouldn't be included in this. I get it. You know, it's kind of gray. Jim justifies them all. I understand. There's no clear answer that it is or it isn't, right? We had to get a line out to the lighthouse. We had to loop it around between Rebecca. There was work done in there and there was staging done in there. The parking lot got damaged during that. That's the big expense. The curbstone, you don't like the fact that we put a better quality product there, you know, I guess, but that's just the way it is. Stormwater, I can see how you could say that it isn't related, but I can also see how it is related. So these aren't clear things that are not related to the project at all. The thing that gets me concerned is we're talking about $200,000 as your estimate. The town paid $2.5 million of taxpayer dollars to reduce your betterment. And the town worked to get a $2.2 million grant to reduce the betterment of your project. You, all of you guys benefited from that. No one else in the town did. And I, going back and kind of looking at this thing, really, I mean, it baffles me a little bit. It's, you know, $2.5 million got put to this project from capital planning, and all it did was improve in the areas that you think may have been a little bit out of line. It just improved your neighborhood. So if you want to justify it, then say that taxpayers only paid $2.3 million towards reducing your betterment, and the other $200,000 went towards public improvement, if that's what you think. I don't understand. We really have never, we've done other betterment projects in town, and we've never dealt with this. We've never had a group come back to us that got the project that they wanted and done under budget, done at almost a third of what we thought you could have been charged for it, and coming back and saying, well, I don't like these 3 things that you did, can you save us another $24? It's just very surprising to me. You know, that's my take on it. I don't know what the rest of the board thinks, but I thought that we bent over backwards to get you the project you wanted, the design that you wanted, saved you as much money as we could, used grant money and taxpayers' money to get you the lowest price we could get you. And I don't understand why you're coming back and kind of saying, well, all of the parking lot we shouldn't pay for. Or why did you put that nice granite there? You know, why didn't you just put the concrete? It doesn't make sense to me. So I mean, correct me if I'm misreading this, but this isn't like we did that we fixed the school and said, okay, we're gonna throw that on your betterment. This is all somewhat related, and it's probably like this in most projects in town. You know, things happen during a project that cause repair work to have to be done that isn't exactly what the project was, but it's kind of a ancillary condition that comes from it. So, I mean, this project got more funding from outside sources that personally help your pocketbooks, that I'm just surprised you're coming back with this. I'll stop ranting. Ms. Collins?
I echo Mr. Bentley's comments. I was new to the board at the time this was the hot topic in town, and I could have gone either way, but we had a couple of meetings, one of which I voted for the gravity system, and then I had, and Dave knows this, I had a real crisis of conscience, because I said to myself, are these people sitting before us, that sat before us tonight, sure? Are they sure they want to pay the betterment? Because that was the deal, if you will. And we didn't have numbers at that time, we only had estimates. And to a person, I even asked the then chair at the time, I said, can we reconsider this vote? I'm afraid I made a mistake, because I'm afraid the people on Cedar Point don't know what they're saying yes to with the betterment. It caused a lot of turmoil on the board, turmoil for Jim, turmoil for DPW. And I asked Tony, could we reconsider it? We had another meeting with Cedar Point, and you absolutely, to a person, said, we will pay the betterment. So I am personally extremely disappointed that, in my opinion, we're now nickel and diming this project when you got the project you want, it came in under budget. If we spent more money to make that entrance to Cedar Point more attractive with the granite, I went down and looked at it with Jim one day, and I was like, you know, the neighborhood deserves a nice island that isn't gonna wash away. And it was in deplorable shape. So I'm upset. I'm personally upset, because I feel like at that point, I stuck my neck out. I was the third vote. So, just let me finish. I think it was a bad idea for you to come here and ask us to reduce what is already a reduced betterment cost. That's all.
Anyone else have any comments on the board?
I mean, I'll just say that I would argue that those implications of whether it's the stormwater, whether it's the paving of the lighthouse, that all enhances the neighborhood and consequently your home values. It's not just about putting a sewer connection in, it's the aesthetic of the neighborhood in which you live. So I would ask you all to keep that top of mind as well, because let me tell you, there are many, many roads throughout Scituate where there are new houses and the sidewalks and the roads and the curbing doesn't look half as good. And you'd be amazed how much that really impacts the value of your home, I'm sure you all know that. So I think that's something also that everyone should consider. I voted no for the gravity system. So, I was one of those dissenting votes. So in my opinion, people have been pretty transparent and I think you both said it pretty well. You've gotten a fair deal. I'm not gonna say a good deal, that's all relative, but a very fair deal.
There's no more comments, I'll let you guys have some comments and then we'll wrap it up.
I'd just like to respond briefly. The initial appropriation that the town gave was because they were hoping to put in the pumps. They were trying to give us these pumps for free. That's why the I&I was appropriated back in, the original appropriation of the 2.5 million back in 2017. That was the plan all along. That's why the 2.5 million was given. It wasn't to help our sewer, it was so that they could say, we're giving you these pumps for nothing. Then, it is true.
You can finish and then we'll comment.
And then the additional state money was put in by the town for the pressure system. And it was specifically given for the pressure system, to repay the town for the 2.5 million that it appropriated. It was for the pressure system. It wasn't for the sewer. Nobody said, okay, we'll give you all this money for the sewer till the very end. When the board, and again, we thanked you numerous times and we can thank you again for giving us the sewer that we wanted. They did a great job putting it in. But to say that, we gave you all this money for your gravity sewer, well, it ended up being that way in the end, but that's not the way it was appropriated or given. And we're not ungrateful. We just say that we're paying an assessment. Nobody here is saying they're not gonna pay an assessment. But an assessment is supposed to be done legally and certain things. We're not supposed to be assessed for things that aren't part of the sewer and aren't part of correcting the infiltration system that we had.
So my response to that would be, regardless of whether it was supposed to go to this system or that system, your neighborhood got $4.7 million that no other betterment in town has gotten. You got it because the board voted for it in both instances. We could have taken that money and put it towards any project we wanted. We could have put it down Oceanside. We could have gone to any part of town and used it, and we didn't. We used it on your property. And I think, granted, your property was the one that we thought was the most in need of it, but you all benefited from that more than anybody else has. I'll call you in a second, Dave. So I think the technicality of it was supposed to be on this system at first, and then we changed it to this system. Well, that was just us evaluating knowledge or data as it became available to us and deciding, really, based on you guys saying, look, I don't care what it costs, I want this system. Karen quoted it, we said, hey, you guys understand, this could be $45,000 for each of you, and all of you in that meeting, there were 60, 70, 80 people in that meeting said, we do not care, we want this system. And we did it. And I've already said my thoughts, but I think you're off base there a little bit in the fact of the matter is $4.7 million, which is what's the cost? It's almost 30% of the price of the project got paid for by either a grant that we decided to allocate to that project or taxpayers' money. So that's fine. David, you can wrap us up.
Yeah, just please to also keep in mind that Cedar Point was sewered in 1972 with a gravity system that we have. So it's not as though we got a brand new type of sewer system, and that the people were on septic systems and cesspool. We had a system. It was a system the town had determined was failing, so it had to be replaced. So, yeah, I mean, the project came out very well. There's no question about that. I think everybody's generally pleased. They're pleased with the way the company, especially Albany's, handled the whole thing. But for me, the one that is most troubling for me, I guess, is the Lighthouse parking lot. I mean, that was a surprise. It almost was something like it was something that was added on at the very last moment. And I'm not saying that that was the case, but from my perspective, I think it was. We were invited to meetings, and we were invited by Albanese to the weekly meetings that was held between Albanese and DPW. And pretty much every week there would be 2 of us or 3 of us that would go. And I don't remember any discussion about, at the very tail end of it, that they were going to be grinding up the whole parking lot. Remember, that's a public parking lot. Right at, maybe a couple of months ago, the town approved a filming out there that required the film company asked that every single parking spot would be used. That's fine, but it's troubling to me, to some extent, that you guys are saying that we got this fantastic deal in the system. We already had the system, so it's not like we upgraded from cesspools and septic systems to municipal sewers. We had that system to begin with. That's all I want to say.
I don't want to belabor it, but you had a system there, you're in a tough area of town, and it has a life of 40 years. And then you're gonna replace it, just like a refrigerator or anything else.
No,
Right.
denying that at all.
Right. So, and we replaced it with a new system. You have to at least acknowledge that parking lot was used for the project, right? You know that we had to dig a hole to get out to the lighthouse, right? And you know we had to go around the loop to get to the other side of the.
No.
Or there wasn't a loop?
No.
Well, you know that we did a lot of the staging of the vehicles there. You know that it was damaged by that. There was activity in the parking lot, right? It's just a question, right? There was activity in the parking lot for the project.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there was trucks parked there. They put gravel in containers, they put dirt in containers. There wasn't any damage done to the asphalt by the parking.
The parking lot was always part of the original bid. It wasn't added on. It was part of the $3.3 million bid. It was part of the bid when we went to the gravity system. It wasn't an addition. We didn't come back and say, oh, now that we're here, let's pave the whole parking lot. We didn't change it. It was part of the project from the beginning all the way through.
Then
if we hadn't done it, we would have been crucified.
Right. As we have in the past, when we've done projects and we just did the ditch and we didn't do the curb to curb, as Sean would say, then we get lambasted after the fact for not doing it. All right, well, if there's no other comments, we'll take your comments under consideration when we figure out what we're gonna charge for this.
Okay, that's fair enough.
All right, I'll give you the last comment. I know you raised your hand. Just your name and address.
Jay Farrell, 51 Rebecca Road. Don't know where to start, I guess there's not a lot of time, I'm just gonna cut to the end. We had sewer in the 70s, we paid for a betterment, 40 years later, 50 years later, however long sewers last, it has to be replaced or it has to be improved at least. So we replace it. Are we saying that in another 40 years with this system, maybe has to be replaced? We're gonna have to pay another betterment?
Yeah.
So sewers in the rest of the town, if there's work done on those, there's no maintenance, there's no project, there's no planning. Every single time a sewer is replaced in the town, all the residents on that sewer line get the betterment every single time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like, if you have your own septic system in your house, you gotta replace that as well, whatever the life is. Yeah, there's been a ton of maintenance in your area too over the last 40 years. Just like there is maintenance that goes into some of the sewer systems, but if it is replaced, they have to pay another betterment. And
I'll just say, there could be some questions. I've become obsessed with stormwater and I and some of these different water issues, and actually some of the maintenance that I've looked, I've been other places and talking to DPW. Are stormwater catch basins and stormwater diversion, and how you can divert stormwater with, what is it, the bio, it's an integral part. I mean, like, to suggest that this is not part of I&I, it is an integral part of I&I understanding. And that's actually part of the maintenance all around.
Is it part of the same piping system, or is it a completely separate piping system?
Separate.
Oh, so, yeah, that stuff is completely separate from the sewers that we.
Well, separate part of this, part of the system, but not the pipe, just like your pipe isn't the same pipe that goes to Dave's house.
Well, it heats out into a main pipe that runs down the road, so.
Well, it's part of, it's part of the system, like if
It's maintenance and protection to make sure that you have longevity and there's the whole system writ large for the whole town, and make sure that you're not gonna be damaged. And there's so many different benefits.
it benefits all of you to have that. You wanna have that, you don't wanna have it.
Yeah,
You don't want
I'm
to-
not saying it's not needed, I'm just saying I wasn't aware that it was part of the sewer project. You know, you also have electricity out there, you know, nothing was done with electricity, but if something was done, you know, during this project, I would have expected that to be included in the sewer system. And that's, you know, I'm not speaking for the, you know, neighborhood, I'm speaking personally here. So, well, it was a completely separate system, I just assumed that would be a completely separate project. Or, hey, we've got the road dug up, why don't we do it at the same time, or consider that part of our maintenance of the system, doing this extra work, because it's already dug up. I understand that, if that was part of it, but again, when we voted and we allocated money for it, I didn't understand that we were allocating money for something that we didn't talk about in the meeting, so.
Great, thank you for coming in, again, we'll take it under consideration, we've got the 3 items here and the dollar amount, so we'll figure it out from there.
Jumping in now, to get this voted, to get a tax bill. 30 days, 60 days. I could change that.
Okay, so any further discussion on the assessment dollar amount?
Is the one on the back sheet correct? Instead of the one in the back, okay.
So I guess the conversation we would have is, do we wish to reduce this amount by any dollar amount? Particularly as it relates to the 3 projects that they mentioned, which they estimated at 74,000, 24,000, 130. First of all, I don't think we can, I think these are really just estimates of what it is.
The parking lot's an estimate, the other ones are actual change orders. The parking lot is just an estimate that they came up with based upon the size of the parking lot, how thick the pavement is.
Needs of residents,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, because we didn't do that, it was part of the project, wasn't
Right,
that?
it's already a part of it.
Does anyone want to reconsider the total amount of 18,745,000?
18,000.
But is the project total in there?
The total benefit
Total
assessment.
7,080,704.31. Does anyone want to consider reducing that, particularly by any of these 3 items?
I would like just 1 second conversation on the drainage piece, okay? I totally understand the, it enhances the effectiveness of the system, but is it entirely required for the system?
If you are doing I&I with a gravity system,
Wait, different question,
No.
okay?
if you are doing I&I with a gravity system, and and you have a drainage issue, you have to address it, otherwise it will cause I&I. If this was a pressure system, you could say, well, doesn't matter, the water can sit there for months, it's not gonna infiltrate the system. But with a gravity system, if that water is sitting in the street, sitting on top of the manhole cover, eventually it is gonna infiltrate into the system. So yes, if you get out there and find when you're doing the sewer project, that we have a drainage issue, you have to address it, otherwise, why are you doing the project?
I'm satisfied with that answer.
Spent a lot of time on that.
He's one as well.
Well, and I'm, yes, like I said, but I see how this is. You know, the language that we typically use, I'm sure in these cases, was just about I&I. Or else we would have had to go back and amend everything if we specifically stated pressure systems, et cetera. We always make sure we address the project.
The article said I&I, didn't say
Yeah,
pressure
didn't say-
system.
exactly. So I'm not too concerned about that, concern that was raised.
I mean-
Look, yeah, I mean, as I said, I was a dissenting voter on this whole project anyway, you know, what they forget is that half that point is under, you know, sea level, et cetera, so could ultimately start costing us more money in the future with this type of system, so.
You didn't do all you want, we didn't do the parking lot because that is a public benefit. Well, paving the whole street's a public benefit, maybe we should just pave the trench, that's all we disturbed as part of the project was the trench, right? I mean, that parking lot was always part of the project, we didn't add it, wasn't an add-on, wasn't an add-on.
It enhances their property value for those.
Well, I feel like they did a good deal.
Well, if we don't have a reason to change the number, can I have a motion to assess the betterment?
Move to assess betterment to improve parcels as part of the Cedar Point Sewer Replacement Project at $18,745.70 for the 126 affected parcels and $9,372.85 for each of the 3 accessory dwellings for a total assessed betterment amount of $2,380,703.90.
Second.
Second by Ms. Conley, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. It is unanimous. Great. The next topic is liaison reports. Anybody want to start us off? No, Karen?
I'm tired.
I can even brief, just one brief one, 2 brief ones. Well, thank you to Jen and DEI committee for putting the translator, that's great, that's awesome. And we got our first grant submission for the small parents grant program for affordable housing trust, and we actually got an application in this week. So that's pretty good.
That's
We're
great.
excited about that.
That's great.
Yeah, and that's what I have, so I've been here for 2 weeks, so that's.
Just let you know, I did the school walkthrough and was able to see some great completed projects that were done.
Did they fix the stairs at Everly?
We did, well, we didn't go to Adelaide, but yes, that walkway is fixed.
Thank you.
New flooring and walked up the library, are great, more accessible for the ECC playground, these mats to make it easier, more accessible. And also throughout the high school, which is, so a lot of great projects, and we talked about some of the landscaping as well, so just good work.
Great, and I'll just add, the beach commission met last week. They've got a good set of agenda things, topics that they're working on, and the one thing I will note is they voted unanimously in favor of pursuing putting bathrooms at the beaches. So it's in the minutes, I don't know, they said they may send a letter, so I'm not sure if we got that or not, but I think that was all good news, they seem to be on track and good committee. Okay, if there's nothing else, are there any correspondences?
We just have one correspondence for the John P. Connors Memorial Fund kickoff party that they're inviting the board to, which is taking place on Monday, October 3rd, at Cheevers Tavern in Norwell. That's the group, if you'll recall, for the large statue for the Navy SEAL in town. So that's that group that's holding that benefit in Norwell, if you'd like to go. And then I think we mentioned the other correspondence that we received all week with regards to Laser.
And I have, any comments on the minutes? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Move to accept the minutes of the select board meeting held September 6th, 2022. And also move to accept and not release the executive session minutes for the select board executive session held on September 6th, 2022.
Second.
Second by Ms. Canfield. Further discussion, seeing none, all in favor? Aye, it is unanimous. Can I have a motion to adjourn and sign documents?
So moved.
Second by Ms. Curran, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous. Good night, everybody. Thank you, guys.